Do you guys want to hear something real? Wait, hang on. Let me make sure my audio is working. You want to hear something really fucked? Yesterday on stream, it's not that fucked. Yesterday on stream, I was listening to this playlist, and honestly, like, I fucked with it. The relaxing jazz, DMCA safe, right? Copyright safe. No taken down. And I got copyrighted by this fucking stream kitty. Like, okay. Alright. Same thing happened when I listened to this happens anytime I go on Spotify and I search up like a copyright free music. It's always something that's not copyright free. Whatever. Hang on. So I looked up Peter Thiel just because I didn't know if the I or the E came first. When I was typing it out, and like Jeffrey Epstein. What is this crossover episode? What? Why? I didn't even click on it yet. But like, what the fuck?
Crazy. You're absolutely really, why don't you fuck off? How about that?
All right. I feel so naked without any background music. That's just me. Jeffrey Epstein invested with Peter Thiel, and his estate is reaping many millions. Jeffrey Epstein, the registered sex offender, met with many from... The registered sex offender? Is that... We can do better, right? We can do a little better. Jeffrey Epstein, the fuck... I literally did call this last night. Wait, hang on. There's YouTube music? Do 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 do. Guys, part of my obsession with politics is the fact that I was a Hamilton kid and I know a lot about American history. I got a 5 on my A-push test. That's why I know a lot, which is like actually more than the majority of people in the United States fucking government apparently. Oh, this is sick. Okay, hang on. Oh, I have to pay for it. No, wait, no, hang on, there's a free tab. Okay. is kind of lame now, because like I have to have this playing on in the background of like the actual like fucking of like my actual computer. I can't sync it to my Google. I agree with the cat. Me too. This is so loud. Okay, is this background music for like okay, it's like really low for me, but whatever. What does this sound like? Hey now. Alright, I'm not doing that. I don't like this music. It's lame. Alright, stop distracting me. You guys suck. Okay, why are we introducing him as the registered sex offender, okay? The registered sex offender. I'm sorry. He was found guilty of procuring a minor as young as 14. He was found guilty of soliciting prostitute. He was arrested on federal charges of sex trafficking, of conspiracy of sex trafficking, of minors for which states? Florida and New York. Donald Trump's two states super closely associated with Donald Trump. Oh my god, that's fucking crazy. Why are we introducing him as a registered sex offender and not like the convicted and guilty like pedophile? Jeffrey Epstein, comma, pedophile, comma, met with many powerful people in finance and business during his career, but the financier invested with only a few of them. One of those people was Peter Thiel, the Silicon Valley billionaire. Registered sex offender does obviously mean that he's convicted, but it's also like you could be a registered sex offender by taking a plea deal, and also it doesn't have minor. That's he's a pedophile. Minor, like. In 2015 and 2016, Mr. Epstein put $40 million into two funds managed by Where'd you go? What are you eating? Bro. A New York firm that was co-founded by Mr. Thiel today. Sorry, Mr. Thiel. Today, that investment is worth nearly $170 million. Holy shit, that's like a 400% 400% profit. Jesus Christ. According to a confidential financial analysis of Mr. Epstein's estate, reviewed by the New York Times in a statement provided by the Velar spokesperson, Mr. Epstein's investment was with Mr. Thiel's, oh my god, Jesus Christ, with Mr. Thiel's firm has not been previously reported or publicly disclosed. Where the fuck is this Hang on. Oh my god. So Elon Musk, who just happened... Hang on, let me make sure. Let me pull up my Elon Musk. Let me pull up my Elon Musk and Peter Thiel graph. Hang on. Hang on. Please hold. Oh my god, where did I put it? What did I name it under? Fuck, all of my Miro boards were named under the silliest things. Damn it. Damn, I don't know. I can't find it. Damn. Ah, I can't find it. Alright, whatever. Oh! What's up, Hunter? When do you get here? Do you watch Darius IRL? I don't know. I don't know what that is. So no. Today was a great day. I'm glad. Sorry. I wasn't discovering anything significant. I was just pulling up some Peter Thiel backstory. Obviously, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk go back to the PayPal Mafia, but they had a falling out. They're pretty sure. Thiel called him like a sellout, kicked him out of the company, basically, and Musk was like super, super upset about it. Wait, they got into a car crash. What? Wait, hang on. This is my first time reading this. Sorry, let me read it out for you guys. I'm sorry. Perhaps the most famous piece of lore from the early days of the PayPal Mafia is the time that Elon Musk took Peter Thiel for a joyride in his McLaren F1. Thiel asked Musk what the car could do. Musk said, "Watch this," gunned the engine, lost control. The two men survived without injury, but the car was ruined. Musk didn't really know how to drive and hadn't bothered to insure the vehicle. Musk's and Thiel's latest acquisition is effectively the United States. The United States government. Musk spent over $250 in support of President-elect Donald Trump in the election effort, and he has been glued to Trump's hip ever since the election, has been tasked as the co-chair of the Department of Government Efficiency. This was written back before he was even inaugurated. Last week, Thiel contributed to a column in the Financial Times titled A Time for Truth and Reconciliation. It's a ludicrous, portentous. Alright, let's guess. Is it going to be sexual? Is it going to be normal? Is it going to be a man? I think it's going to be normal.
Portentous.
Okay, it was normal.
Portentous.
Okay. This is what he wrote. A Time for Truth and Reconciliation by Peter Thiel. In 2016, President Barack Obama told his staff that Donald Trump's election victory was not the apocalypse. By any definition, he was correct, but understood the original sense of the Greek word apocalypse, a meaning unveiling. Obama could not give the same reassurance in 2025. Trump's return to the White House augurs the apocalypse of the ancient regime's secrets. The new administration revelations need not justify vengeance. Construction can go hand in hand with reconciliation, but for reconciliation to take place, there must first be truth. What years does this guy think we're living in? What the fuck? the apocalypsis. Alright, I'm just saying apocalypse. The apocalypse is the most peaceful means of resolving the old guard's war on the internet. War the internet won. My friend and colleague Eric Weinstein calls the pre-internet custodians of secrets the distributed idea suppression complex. Aiden Moore, thank you so much for the $5. What do you think about Elon and third-party idea? Do you think third party could ever work in the United States? No, not really. Yeah, no. I like third-party voters and single-issue voters are like low-key top people that I hate in terms of like people like. Honestly, I kind of respect people that don't vote because not everyone should be voting. If you're not educated enough to vote, don't vote. If you don't care about what happens to the majority of the public and you only are like selfish, I don't know. I don't really care if you don't vote or not. Like I'd like but mostly on the education thing. I'm so of the belief that we should have more restrictions on who can be allowed to vote. Democratically, of course. You just have people vote on who they think should be allowed to vote. Because if you ask most people, I listened to a podcast about this. If you ask most people what they think a qualified voter should be, like they'll say like, you know, someone who knows like how a bill gets passed, someone who understands like the bichamberal legislative, someone who knows like what the Bill of Rights says, like someone who knows the Constitution, those are like things that people will say of like what someone should vote like is. So if we just like figure out a way to objectively and utopically get those people, then that would be fine. Anyways, moving on. What a day. Are we cooing? I think they are. I think they're planning on using the 25th Amendment, but hang on. We'll get there. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. There you go. Okay, so he wrote this. He wrote this piece. Wrote this creepily what's the word that accelerationist. What's the wrote this creepily accelerationist Peace in the Wow, I'm doing so great, guys. That was such a good one. Oh, I hate when it does this. Wow, that took so much effort. All right. Wait, hang on. This is so funny considering that. Why is Epstein coming up? Oh my god, I did not realize how much Epstein comes up in like just like average fucking Elon Musk and Peter Thiel like lore. Like, okay, that's just okay. Like, okay. My friend and colleague Eric Weinstein calls the pre-internet custodians of the distributed idea suppression complex, the media organization, bureaucracies, universities, and government-funded NGOs that traditionally delimited public conversation. In hindsight, the internet had already begun our liberation from the disc prison. Upon the prison death of financer and child sex offender. See, that's how he should be introduced. Child sex offender. Child sex offender. Child sex offender that you accepted money from. Yo, what the fuck? It may be too early to answer the internet's questions about the late Epstein. One can say the same about the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Oh, so he was already setting up he was already setting it up that they were gonna release the JFK files and not release the Epstein files. 65% of Americans still doubt that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Why the fuck do they doubt that? Because people keep on telling them to doubt that. And now that we published the JFK files, I think the only thing that came out of that was people just started bringing Israel into it for some reason. Like, what the fuck? Like, that, and then that became a thing. Like an outlandishly postmodern detective story, we have waited 61 years for a denouement, while the suspects, Fidel Castro, 1960s mafiosi, and the CIA's Alan Dulles gradually die. No! The thousands of classified government files on Oswald may or may not be red herrings, but opening them up for public inspection will give America some closure. We cannot wait 6 decades, however, to end the lockdown on free discussion about COVID-19. In subpoenaed emails from Anthony Fauci's senior advisor, David Morans, we learned that the National Institutes of Health apparatchiks hid their correspondence from Freedom of Information Act scrutiny. Nothing, wrote Boccaccio in his medieval plaque, the Decameron, is so indecent that it cannot be said to another person if the proper words are used to convey it. This is so long. Oh my god, never mind. It's not that long. Okay, whatever. In that spirit, Morans and the former chief U.S. medical advisor Fauci will have the chance to share some indecent facts about our own recent plague. Did they suspect that COVID spawned from U.S. taxpayer-funded research? Or adjacent Chinese military program? Why did we fund the work of EcoHealth Alliance, which sent researchers into remote Chinese caves to extract novel coronaviruses? Is gain-of-function research a byword for bioweapons program? And how did our government stop the spread of such questions on social media? This is such, like, bullshit. Oh my god. I'm getting a headache from the way that he writes. Oh my god, just like the syntax is like so. My cat has. Where's the catnip? Is that what you were eating earlier, bitch? She gets herself high on catnip. Like, she'll open catnip and then she'll like fucking roll around it in it and then get the zoomies. It's so, this is like the most like anti-intellectual thing that you could do. Like, well, why did we fund, why, if you follow the money, then we funded this research alliance that goes over here and that goes over blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm pretty sure that everything has a cause. Like, I'm pretty sure that everything is because of something. And so if you look at anything, you'll find a cause to something, but it's your job. You have like what is it? The onus is on you. Like, you have the burden of proof to show that there was malice intent. Like, okay, I don't know. Wait, hang on. I don't know any of the validity to any of these terms, but this is just an anti-intellectual way for you to make your argument, okay? If Eco Health Alliance, XYZ, whatever, was being funded to go into Chinese caves to extract coronaviruses, that's fine. What? Like, you have to prove that that's being used to then, excuse me. Excuse me. What do you... You have to show that that's being then used to, like, as a bioweapon to against the American people. Like, what? Our First Amendment frames the rules of engagement for domestic flights over free speech, but the global reach of the internet tempts its adversaries into into a global war. Can we believe that a Brazilian judge banned X without America backing? No! Not the free speech. Can we believe that a Brazilian judge banned X without American backing? And in a trigonomic pervasion of the Monroe is that a pervasion of the Monroe Doctrine? I'm pretty sure that the Monroe... What does the Monroe Doctrine say? Wait, hang on. What? Isn't that exactly what the Monroe Doctrine is? Doesn't the Monroe Doctrine give everyone, like, the right to do it in South America? Doesn't that, like, relinquish our control? Oh, wait, hang on. No, this wasn't even, like, us relinquishing control. This was us telling Europe to stay out of our fucking way. How is this in violation of the Monroe Doctrine? And also, there's no way that this... Hang on. What does this say? The United States would not interfere in any international affairs or wars between European powers. The United States recognized and would not interfere in existing colonies and dependencies within the Western Hemisphere. The Western Hemisphere is closed to future colonization. Any attempt by a European power to express or control any Western Hemisphere would be viewed as hostile in that. How the fuck is this is this a violation of the Monroe Doctrine? He was saying perversion. Yeah, doesn't that mean like warping? Like, if it's perverted, it's like wrong?
Perversion.
Sexual. The alteration of something from its intended course, meaning or yeah. Okay. But it's not. Can we believe that a Brazilian judge banned X without American backing? We're both in the Western Hemisphere. Like, what does that have to... Am I retarded? Yeah, the United States recognized and would not interfere with existing colonies and dependencies in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, yeah, I'm not retarded. What? Were you complicit in Australia's recent legislation requiring error verification for social media users, the beginning of the end of internet anonymity? What did we muster even 2 minutes of criticism of the UK, which has arrested hundreds of people a year for online speech triggering, among other things, annoyance, inconvenience, or needless anxiety? We may expect no better from Orwellian dictatorships in East Asia and Eurasia, but we must support a free internet in Oceania. This is little. Oh my god, what the fuck? Darker questions still emerge in these dusky final weeks of our interregnum. Venture capitalist Mark Andreessen recently suggested on Joe Rogan's podcast. Oh, okay. That Biden administration debanked crypto entrepreneurs. How closely does our financial system resemble a social credit system? Oh my god, how closely does our financial system resemble a social credit system? Yeah, you're just gonna take advantage of it, aren't you? And make it a social credit system where an IRS's contractors' illegal leaks of Trump's tax records anomalous? Or should Americans assume their right to financial privacy hinges on their politics? Jesus fucking Christ, you're the ones that are making people do that. Like, what? You're the ones that are going after people for fucking op-eds that they write online. Like, what? Like, what? How are you trying to play the victim right now? Can one speak of a right to privacy at all when Congress conserves Section 7? Oh my god, there's no way all of this is coming. This is insane considering what he's doing right now. This is insane. What? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Alright, cool. Nope, that's it. That's all I get. Okay. South Africa confronted its apartheid history with a formal commission, but answering the questions above with piecemeal declassifications would be fit. Where did South Africa go? He's South African, right? Are we a nation of states? What's our states of our nation? True. Have you covered the new travel bans yet? Is there something to cover? Like, I know that Afghanistan was on it, and I saw that Myanmar was on it. Donald Trump's just picking fights with everyone. Like, what the, like, what is there to say? I don't know why he does the shit that he does. You know what would be crazy? If, like, if it comes out that, like, someone in the Biden admin was what's it called? Had, like, family in a specific country, and he bans that country so they can never, like, see their family again. That would be fucked. That would be fucked. The first Trump administration shied away from declassifications because it still believed in the right-wing deep state of an Oliver Stone movie. This belief has faded. Is that true? I thought that the first Trump administration declassified like the majority of the JFK files. Yeah, right? The biggest revelations in the declassified assassination files. October 2017, the National Archives will leave more than 2,800. Oh, wait, hang on. Isn't there like 60,000? Wait, maybe I'm lying. 31,000 had never been seen before. How 31,000 is more than how what? Wait, 3,100 is more than 2,800. Okay, well, whatever. Stop getting on tangents. Ouch! Oh my god, why? Fuck you. Hang on. I'll get some hate, but if you think about it, taking Canada and Greenland would be a good thing. We'd have the voting power to put someone in that would give us universal health care, free education. What if I told you I don't want either of those things? Fuck, where's my soundboard? There's supposed to be like a thump there. Where'd it go? There you go. Being against healthcare and education is pretty stupid. Thanks. I said that I didn't want universal healthcare and free education, but yeah, like I'm against all like education as like a whole. Like I think everyone should just stay at home and like suck their toes all day. Our ancient regime, like the aristocracy of pre-revolutionary France, thought the party would never end. 2016 took their is this supposed to be like a racist? Like a historistus fate in the arc of the moral universe. But by 2020, they hope to write Trump off as an aberration. I was obviously okay. Oh my god, it's obviously being sarcastic. What would universal healthcare entail? Is universal healthcare like universal for anyone who walks into a doctor's office? Like they don't need any type of verification or any type of like application, any type of identification? Like what is universal? Do you have to apply for universal? Is this like at a certain basic type of income? Is it so like what do we classify in universal? Do you still have to pay into it? Does it coming directly out of your paycheck? Like what does universal mean? Free education is insane. Do you know how much of a return on education you get? Like, you're paying X, let's say I'm gonna use my knowledge from my high school, which is obviously biased to my knowledge from high school, But let's say you have a school that costs, and this is expensive, right? Like $60,000 a year. That's like a pretty like expensive school. That's after loans or whatever. $60,000 a year coming out of pocket. If that's for 4 years, that's $24,000, okay? If that degree helps you get into a 6-figure salary, then you will have made a return on your investment like within the next 5 years, basically. It's not that bad of like a thing, and it's not even like it's like you hate college. Like, you're going to college, you get to be surrounded by a bunch of other fuckers that are just around away from their parents for the first time. You're getting a lot of social skills. You're getting all of like the networking benefits of being around people that are doing the same major as you, and all of like the resources that's entailing. Like, that's like a lot. What am I saying that's incorrect here? uh, Healthcare for the poor. We have healthcare for the poor. We should expand it. We should make sure that it's applicable, that it's more available and accessible to everyone who needs it. But that's not universal healthcare. That's not what people think when they're saying universal healthcare. Arya, you need to travel. Seriously, go to Germany and see how they do it. So go to school abroad. Like, that's an option. If it's so expensive to go to school here and it's so much cheaper than go to school abroad, I understand that that's obviously like a very privileged thing to say. Like, not everyone can afford it, but that's the way that life works, unfortunately. Not everyone can afford a lot of things. This is a take of a 19-year-old with your life experience. This is a take of a 19-year-old who is paying for her own way through college because she thinks that it's worth it because of the return on investment. That's where my thoughts are coming from. I don't think that everyone needs to go to college. I think that there should be like, there shouldn't be 4-year qualifications for you to be like a fucking like, well, receptionist is like the cop out example, but those are going out of business anyways because of AI. Listen, I think if you can afford to go to school, you should go to school. I think on the most expensive end, it's still worth it to go to school. I think if you can't afford it on the most expensive end, then do it on the cheap end. And you should go to school. If you don't want to go to school, don't go to school. There's a lot of jobs you could get without going to school. It's very simple. You don't have to, this doesn't have to be free education for everyone. In retrospect, 2020 was the aberration, the re-aggrard action of a struggling regime and its struldbrug. There will be no reactionary restoration of the pre-internet past. The future demands fresh and strange ideas. John, I have Collins. Like, come on. If for some reason you ran things, you wouldn't make college free even if you could. If for some reason I ran things, I wouldn't make college free even if I could. If I was God and I could rework the way that our education system is set up, I wouldn't commodize it to the extent that it has become, where people feel the societal pressure to travel across the country to go to various schools that they think are going to serve various specialties better. I think that it would be a lot... how do I word this? I think it would be a lot better if there were a lot less colleges, and if those colleges that did exist were a lot more purposed, and if there were less colleges, they wouldn't be so commoditized. Hang on, I'm sending the Discord link. I'm a big proponent of full ride scholarships. Me too. I think it's cool that, like, I think it's a good thing that Texas has automatic acceptance if you're like in the top 10, or like top 6% or something like that. Ouch. I'm waiting for the the fuck? Okay, I thought that you were gonna fight with... Alright, whatever. Okay, moving on. The future demands fresh and strange ideas. New ideas might have saved the old regime, which barely acknowledged, let alone answered, our deepest questions. The causes of 50-year slowdown in scientific and technological progress in the U.S., the rocket of crescending real estate prices, and the explosion of public debt. I love how idealist the chat is. Like, yeah, I want free... You know what? Free everything. Free everything. I want free, What? Yeah, John, hop on now. I'm not... The future demands fresh and strange ideas. New ideas might have saved the old regime, which barely acknowledge, let alone answer the deepest questions that cause... Oh wait, I just read that. Perhaps an exceptional country could have continued to ignore such questions, but... Oh, he's there. What's up? Can you hear me?
Check.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? I just had to plug in a new headset.
Yes, I can hear you. What's up?
Oh, let me put your stream on pause so I don't have an echo. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I like your channel.
Thank you.
I've been following all these new liberal channels that popped up since the election, and you're one of the ones that my algorithm sent me, so it's nice to see some young people who aren't super MAGA, because the internet's full of young people that are super loud and conservative. So.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I mean, hey. Man. Yeah, no problem. I try to come and give it a like whenever I can, and just to help it grow.
No, I see you in the comments. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah. My brother's running for Congress, and we're trying to get a YouTube channel
what
going
district?
As well.
That's
sick.
I don't
want to like.
Sorry.
Give much away. Yeah, it's in the middle of the country though. It's in a very red state, so we'll see how it goes.
Good luck.
But anyway, yeah. Well, he's a good candidate, and the people that we elect in my state are really bad candidates. So, but it's a really red state, so it's gonna be one of those things. We'll have to see. But yeah, but if we wanted to chat about the free education and free healthcare and stuff, like I have thoughts on it, and I don't have like a solution for it, but I have like thoughts about directions that I think would be good,
Okay. So I guess, what do you mean by universal healthcare? Like, what would
okay. So full disclosure, I'm from a family of educators. My parents were high school teachers. My dad's a professor at a university that I went to. I've been around the system. I've seen the system's corruption, and I've brought it up to my parents many times, like, hey, the college is wasting money on all these administrators and stuff. So there's problems. And when I say free education, I'm not just talking straight up like everybody should go to college for free. Because like you said, some people don't need to, want to, or like will get any use out of going to college. Right. But for example, I said Germany, and I had a German friend that lived with me for years. And in Germany, not a lot of people here in America know how they do it. It's really interesting. They start giving the kids placement tests like early on, like middle school. They'll test you for like your aptitude in engineering or science or math or literature or whatever. And this is pretty strict and sort of like railroaded. That's kind of German. But you get like placed into a track, and you kind of go to a magnet school for, let's just say, engineering. Okay. Because engineering is different than like going to a liberal arts college to get some biology degree like I did.
Okay.
If you're good at engineering, they get tracked into a high school and a middle school that like has engineering programs, science fair projects, stuff like that. Like stuff like robot class and stuff like that. And then after school, you wouldn't go to college. You would go straight into a trade school, like for welding, or be an electrician, or whatever the type of engineering you end up liking to do. Or you get more training to figure it out. The government helps pay for that with their taxes, and so you have a lot less people who like. They get lost because here in America, like, oh, well, I'm not really a fit for college. There are trade schools, but it's not like promoted. My area has some pretty good trade schools, but you didn't hear like the school counselors talking about it that much when I was in high school, at least. I don't know if it's different now, but I don't think it is. So that way the government helps support, give people, and you don't pay for that stuff. Like when you go to trade school in Germany, it's not something you pay for. The government supports those people, and then they just take that trade education or training and become a productive member of society. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about free education. And when I'm talking about paying for it, obviously right now we have a deficit, and there's like, how do we pay for all this stuff? But I'm a Bernie guy, as crazy as that sounds. Like, I've been a Bernie supporter for a few years, and the Democrats screwed him over or whatever, all that. But his concept for having slightly higher taxes on the 1% would help pay for a lot of that stuff. And I just don't think that discussion happens enough, where we look at like the very top end and how much they pay percentage wise in taxes compared to what they used to pay back in the 50s and 60s. It's changed quite a bit, and that's why we're having all these budget issues. That's why the people at the bottom are feeling so squeezed. Is that the trickle down economics that started in the 80s, where they're like, the rich people, if we lower their tax burden, they'll go to your mom and pop store and spend money, and it'll actually, spur the economy. It didn't work out. So if we changed the way we did taxes, we would have the money to pay for that education and healthcare. The healthcare is another one. Like, I think you've mentioned before that you work at a doctor's office, right?
Yeah, I
So like
used to. Yeah.
you see insurance like from that angle.
Yeah.
So that like from that angle, like if we didn't have the current system, maybe like the people that you knew at work or the place that you worked at, it wouldn't like work the same or it wouldn't survive in the same kind of way. So like people that were within that system are like, no, we shouldn't change it because it works for like my employer or my job. However, when you look at it from like a holistic perspective, the way our society treats sick and dying people is that if you're not part of the capitalist system and you don't have enough money, you just go die in the corner.
Wait,
Honestly,
hang on. Sorry. I don't know what you're referring
it's
to,
true.
but
There's a kid just died yesterday because he couldn't afford an inhaler for his asthma. A 22-year-old.
No, I don't doubt that there are stories of that going on. Just I don't want to clear up. I don't think I've ever said that I am like okay with insurance companies just because I worked in a doctor's office. I think
Okay, well, I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to infer that. It's just that's what I picked up on when you said you worked at a doctor's office and you were a supporter of the way the insurance companies currently work. I was like, oh, well, maybe that's just because it paid your bills, which I understand, and I'm not judging you for that. But I just wanted to let you know that like there are other ways that the system could be built where those people still could have jobs. The doctors would have jobs, nurses and secretaries and everybody that works in the office could have jobs. But the system wouldn't be based around extracting money from people to live another day. We could be based around providing healthcare from a tax base. You see, like if we change the way we tax and we use that money differently, then maybe like a little bit less on the military or something. I mean, whatever they end up doing with the budget. But like we think of it now in a way where it's like, if you want to stay alive, you better have the money to do that. When in a lot of other countries, like talk to some Australian people, that's not a worry they ever have. They do pay higher taxes, but like when they get sick, they just call the doctor and the doctor comes to their house. I mean, it's like a completely another, like a whole, like there's no like worry. Oh my God. Like I personally had a surgery a few years ago that was about $100,000. Now, I signed up for the Affordable Care Act, luckily, several months before the surgery, and the Affordable Care Act helped pay for it. For a lot of it, I still went into debt somewhat. But if I had because I had just turned 26, I was working at a job that didn't have insurance, and I got kicked off my parents' insurance. And at that time, there was no Affordable Care Act, so I was there was a 2-year period where I had no insurance. If I had that surgery during that time, I would have just been. Well, I would have been very, very, very in debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a major surgery. So that opened my eyes because beforehand I was like, oh, there's no way we could pay for it. Before that surgery, several years ago, I was like, there's no way we can pay for it. I hear the budget's close and they're always talking about how we don't have money. There's no way we could pay for it. It'd bankrupt our country. But afterwards, you look into the situation where you're like, well, actually, it could be paid for. The other countries we're allies with pay for it, and they just have higher taxes on their wealthy people. I mean, so like for me, it's like we should have that discussion. Like humans deserve healthcare; they deserve to not suffer, and if they're part of our society, if it's your neighbor, you're supposed to love your neighbor as you love yourself. If it's truly like they're in our country and we're all Americans, we should work to make sure that nobody's just dying in the streets. And that's how I think of it, though. Like I'm like. I guess you could say a bleeding heart. I'm not, I hate to call myself a liberal or whatever, but yeah, I do want to take care. I want to take care of people. And I feel like our society, the way it is where, Bernie loves to say that there's three individual Americans that own more wealth than the bottom 50% of all of us, 150 million of us. And there's 3 people that own more. That system seems a little bit top heavy. And maybe that's going to cause like a lot of societal problems. And so that's like where I'm coming from. And it's not to like judge, because I've been there. When I was young, I said the exact same thing. I don't think we can pay for healthcare. I don't think people should get free college or schooling. Everybody needs to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and work for it. I'm working for it. I was there until it affected me. I know that, that sucks. It's like, okay, yeah, how could I not see it before then? But that just is what it is. You know what I mean? Until I had that major surgery and medical debt and saw the insurance companies and the way it works from the outside, I got kicked off my insurance recently because I have a condition. Like, this is what they call a pre-existing condition, what I have. So I have the Affordable Care Act, but my state recently just told me that all the hospitals in my area no longer accept my insurance because my state didn't do the expansion, the Medicare expansion or whatever. It sucks. It sucks because it's like,
no, it 100% does.
I have a tough time with health, but then I look at other people and they have a much tougher time with health and a tough time paying their bills. And, it's just, I don't want to be in a society that just lets people rot so rich people can have a boat.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. If your position is that we should reallocate the budget to make it so that we can accommodate for a more expansive healthcare for the poor and disabled with pre-existing conditions that need it, I don't think that that's a position that anyone would argue against. I think that when people hear universal, well, obviously, like, the GOP is arguing against it, but, like, I don't think that's anything that, like, a liberal would argue against. I think that the difference between more like liberals and like soc dems with, like, the healthcare is when it comes to accessibility and feasibility in relation to the quality. So a lot of times in America, like, I forgot what story I just read, but there was some type of, like, screening that you can do that's more expensive that basically lets you okay, let me not give a specific example, but let's, like, talk about this in this abstract. Like, in America, we would prefer for us to have, like, a more expensive screening and pay for that more expensive screening if it has a higher percentage or a higher success rate of finding out, like, that you have, like, a life-threatening illness, right? And we would argue for that because we think that, like, life is, like, this mandatory, like, all or nothing thing. Like, if it has the ability to save someone's life, then we should 100% do it. And if we're not doing it, then we're committing some type of, like, moral wrong. And I think my pushback against that would just be, like, realistically, it doesn't work for everything. And if screenings are more expensive to find, like, more rarer diseases, like, it makes sense for companies to put those on the back burner. But that's supposed to be why we have universities that are funding these things for pre-med students doing, like, internships in the summer. And that's supposed to be why we have all of these like different supplementary, like, external, like, outside of the just whatever is going on between the hospital and the insurance company, that are kind of, like, supplementing that. Like, we're supposed to have, like, community health clinics. Like, the community center is supposed to be somewhere where you can go to get, like, a free pack of, like, STDs and stuff like that. And I think that that's more of, like, a statement of just, like, how distant we are away from each other, where everyone just is very commercialized of, like, oh, well, it has to be my healthcare of my experience and my, like, my, you know what I mean? Like, it's a very, like,
I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I guess that would be probably the only, like, friction that I can sense between our points. But other than that, like, I really like understand everything that you were saying and, like, where you're coming from with that.
Well, good. I didn't mean to say in chat when you said you weren't a fan of free healthcare and free education, anything that would imply that you didn't want education or didn't want healthcare at all. That's not what I was implying either. I just wanted to relay my point that, I think we should expand it and we should probably tax the rich people a little more to pay for it. Those are my two thoughts on the situation. And it sounds like we're probably in agreement to the most part. Yeah. I would say about that last thing about the screening and our healthcare, I could see what you're saying. Like maybe in a country that has socialized healthcare, if there's an expensive screening, it wouldn't be given to everybody because it's just not cost effective. Some people are just going to get cancer and die. Mm-hmm. Now, that sucks. The way I look at it, the way I would like to, and this is just rose-tinted glasses, what would be best in a world that would make sense is the doctor would decide. Because doctors do that. They decide this patient either needs this or that won't help them. And we either save them or we don't because they can't be helped. But the way our current system is, the way that guy that got shot, the healthcare executive got shot, was because he was using AI to make that decision. Well, this person doesn't. They're a 50-year-old and they're gonna die of cancer, and we should probably spend any sort of money on younger people that have a longer period of time to pay us. And that was what people got mad about, is because they have an AI deciding who lives and dies instead of your doctor. And I'm not saying like I know how to fix that perfectly, but currently the way it exists with investors investing into those insurance companies and demanding the insurance companies deny people so their return on investment is higher at the end of the day with their what do you call it when an investment when their dividend check comes in? It's greed based. It's like societally greed based. You have millions of people that have invested into this insurance company who are relying on the insurance company making people get sick or allowing people to become sick and die because it saves money. And so that system, and if it's like the whole thing, it's like, well, let's just restructure the whole system so we all participate in making sure we're healthy together. And if you think about it, if you had a healthcare system like that, where somebody who was struggling from whatever disease could actually go and without fear of becoming a debtor, go get help for it, we might have less homeless people. We might have less, sick people just in general. And so maybe the cost of fake care in general would go down. I don't know that for sure. Like I'm not, but you could foresee that if people were able to get help more readily, that maybe they wouldn't let things get as bad and then we'd have to take care of them in a more emergency situation. But either way, Arya, it's been nice talking. Thanks for the Discord invite.
Yeah.
I've been a fan of the channel, so it's it's nice to come and chill and talk. So.
Yeah, of course. Anytime, man. Always open. Thanks for the chat.
Okay. I will, I'll send you some information about my brother's Congress thing. Once we get when we get a YouTube channel, we're gonna do some live streams. His plan is to live stream the whole process. He's a young guy. He wants to live stream. He's doing that Bernie. I don't know if you know. Bernie had a website deal where if you signed up to run in Congress or Senate in your state and you got a certain amount of people to support you, he would give you advice and endorse you.
Yeah, I saw
my brother
that.
signed up for that. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They actually had like some live Zoom calls to like give people some advice on where to start and what to do.
Oh, that's
so my brother's
sick.
in the process. It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like as a 30 whatever year old, you don't really exactly know. Okay, this is how I start running for office. Well, at least from a family where my parents were high school teachers. I'm not a family of like politicians or something. You know what I mean? So it's like it's a good basis to start from. But his idea is to live stream the process of signing up for the office. Building the live stream, building building it all up, getting out there, meeting people, going to protests, stuff like that. So whenever he gets more of the stream, going and built with some people, I'll send you a link so you can check it out.
Hell yeah, I would love it, man.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll pop back into your Discord or your live chat at some time and comment. I'm gonna go to the gym though, but it was nice to chat.
All right, have a good workout, man.
Yeah, you too. Or well, have a good night. Thanks.
Bye. Okay. I would really like the record to state I am not sympathetic to insurance companies because it was paying my pocket. Oh my god! I worked as a virtual assistant for a family physician's practice office. I was not getting paid out of the pocket of insurance. But I understand how that could come across that way. Oh gosh. All right. That was fun. All right. Next caller. I'm dead. Yeah. Also, just one thing. Like to note, the bad thing about the United Healthcare CEO using AI was that the AI had a 90% error rate. That was the bad thing. It wasn't that it was AI. It was that it was a faulty AI. So you have to qualify that just a little bit. Because there have been instances where AI is better at like detecting, like diagnosing. I saw a study where AI was better at diagnosing. I want to say it was like skin cancer or something. Than doctors in a study. I'm also an AI optimist, so take that with a grain of salt. I do not understand at all why these people believe taxing the rich more is going to do anything when these EU countries have higher taxes on their average citizens compared to the US. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the I don't know what. Hang on. Let me find something real quick. Okay. Germany has a 19% value added tax. Like, yeah, this makes sense that they're able to pay for it. This is shoo. Yeah. Like, overall less taxes on everyone. But whatever. Back to Peel's here. Hang on. Where was my Oh my gosh. All right. Identity politics endlessly relegates an ancient history. The study of recent history, to which the Trump administration is now called, is more treacherous and more important. The apocalypse cannot resolve our fights over 1619, but it can resolve our fights over COVID-19. And it will not adjudicate the sins of our first rulers, but the sins of those who govern us today. The internet will not allow us to forget those sins, but with the truth, it will not prevent us from giving. Jesus Christ. Wow, that took us so long. That was such a long little side tangent. All right, it's a ludicrous, portentous piece of writing, but it also signals what Thiel thinks the US government can do if they really put the pedal to the metal and take it for a spin. The column has been roundly mocked within the first 3 paragraphs. Thiel offers conspiratorial musings on everything from Jeffrey Epstein to the origins of COVID-19, who really assassinated JFK. The essay sounds like he took a normal piece of writing and asked ChatGPT for a rewrite. That sounded more like the author had a remarkable collection of tinfoil hats. Real! Alright. The implicit model for Thiel's Truth and Reconciliation proposal isn't actually post-apartheid South Africa. It's representative... is Representative Jim Jordan's multi-year crusade against misinformation researchers and trust and safety professionals. Representative Jordan used his political power to invite a narrative about Hunter Biden's laptop in which routine interactions between federal agencies, academic researchers, and content moderation professionals became prima facie evidence of a vast and influential conspiracy. It provided no meaningful truth and fostered no reconciliation. That was never its purpose. Rep. Jordan set out to wield political power to benefit his allies and harm his opponents. Gasp. Thiel is developing a blueprint for putting big tech's policy agenda at the center of U.S. foreign policy. Australia's social media ban is bad for American social media markets. The EU's Digital Services and Digital Markets Act impose regulatory requirements on the very large online platforms that operate within the EU. Peter Thiel expects the U.S. government to do something about that in the guise of investigating and redressing past wrongdoings. Tech billionaires like Thiel simply do not believe that their companies and investments should be beholden to governments, and now that they have control of the US government, they are suggesting that if any other country interfere with their business, the US government ought to intervene on their behalf. That's actually insane. This is actually fucking crazy. To think that you're a private company. You're a company. You're not protected by the state for anything. You're not, and there's literally no company that gets protected by the state if another country wants to set restrictions on it. You're not, Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper tastes different when you go to the fucking Caribbean than it does when you're in the United States because of the different, sugar moderations. And, you don't see the fucking, the Coca-Cola company, right? Who owns Dr. Pepper? Who owns Dr. Pepper? Is it Coca-Cola or is it Dr. Pepper, or is it Pepsi? It's only one of the two, right? Who owns, watch it be something else. I knew it. I knew it was something else. What the fuck is Jab? Snapple! Sorry, that was loud. Keurig. Keurig. Keurig? There's no fucking... Keurig? Wow. Wow, I hate capitalism. No, I'm just kidding. This is crazy. I had no idea. Whatever. This is insane. This was a merger in 2018? Oh, of course it was. I blame Donald Trump. Tech billionaires like Thiel simply do not believe that their companies and investments should be beholden to governments, and now that they have control of the US government, they are suggesting that if other countries interfere with their business, the US government ought to fear on their behalf. To intervene with foreign, what is it? Foreign, like, constrictions? Constriction. Foreign constriction. Regarding local regulations. There you go. Boom. Peter Thiel. Wait, this is insane. Huh? Peter Thiel reveals secret war with Gawker? What? Spent $10 million to help the wrestler Hulk Hogan sue Gawker. It's less about revenge and more about the specific deterrent. Was outed as being gay by a media organization. His friends suffered at the hands of the same gossip site. Nearly a decade later, the entrepreneur secretly filed a lawsuit to try and put the media company out of business. That's insane. Crazy stuff. Okay, this is kind of based of him, though. Nah, I fuck with it. It's based. Based. Transparency for Thiel is a weapon to be deployed, not a principle to be applied to in an even-handed manner. Ooh, if Peter Thiel and Elon Musk have effectively seized control of the US government now, the message we ought to take from Thiel's latest public missive is he's nothing if not a sore winner, make no mistake. Alright, there you go. There's that. Okay, Peter Thiel overthrew Musk from PayPal. Okay? Musk thinks Thiel is a sociopath. A sociopath, while Thiel calls Musk a fraud. He crushed the car. As PayPal took significant losses in its early, hang on, what does this say? Musk's own online banking platform merged because Thiel was terrified of using the business. Okay, PayPal took significant losses. Musk stepped in. His competitor might make a deal with Yahoo and didn't want S to be squeezed out, so he convinced Thiel to combine their two companies. Musk would be CEO. leaving Musk as the CEO and Thiel with carefully placed allies in top positions who would later overthrow Elon Musk. Boom. While he was on his money mood. While he was on his honeymoon. God damn. By threatening to quit if Thiel. It's insane. They are both from South Africa. South Africaners, Musk originally planned on getting a PhD in physics but dropped out. Meanwhile, Thiel studied law. This is insane. Studied law at Stanford. I wonder why he wanted the Supreme Court. Could it potentially be because the Supreme Court is like the final verdict, the highest layer of the land? He has that narcissistic superiority complex about him. Who knows? He was rejected. Oof. Fuck, where's my... Why does my soundboard keep on dying? What the flip? Alright, studied law at Stanford. Applied for court clerkship, but was denied. Interviews with Scalia. I wonder if they still beef about that. When Musk was trying to get his electric car company, Tesla Motors, worth over $800 billion off the ground, Thiel said no to investing. He doesn't fully buy into the climate change thing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Thiel has always been like a weird, like, Republican type. He's always been one of those strange types. Hang on, I bite like that because of the way that I'm eating with my setup. It's uncomfortable. I wouldn't eat like this normally. I would eat like proper, you know, like with a fork and knife and shit. Um, Elon, I don't need the full name. Musk tried to get Thiel investment in Tesla, but was rejected because of climate change denial. JK, but kind of. Thiel, however, did support SpaceX. So it was because of climate change and had nothing to do with Elon Musk. Thiel, however, did support SpaceX and help the company stay afloat after multiple failures in the late yeah, climate change isn't real. How the roots of the... Is my ad blocker on? Wow. Musk grew up with the privilege of a stratified racial order, and Peter Thiel lived in a city that venerated Hitler. Phenomenal. What questions? From my Discord? Confused. Alright, I can't keep on going down these rabbit holes, okay? This is as much backstory I need on Elon Musk. That's it. In relation to Peter Thiel. That's it, okay? Now, I remember a specific little JD Vance who was a venture capitalist. Axios. Vance was a corporate liar who went to Silicon Valley and got connected with Peter Thiel via a 2-year stint at a venture capital firm from Mithril Capital. As his book Hillbilly Elegy blew up, he connected via Twitter with investor and AOL finder Steve Case, who at the time was on a bus tour to highlight geographics who are underserved by venture capital. Interesting. Okay, so JD Vance went into... Hang on, I don't know why I have this titled Social Credit. This is how the coup unfolds. went into venture capitalism after Hillbilly Elegy. Got big and joined the firm of the co-founder of AOL. Then he left to join Arya Ventures. With investor Peter Thiel. Scott Dorsey alongside Scott Dorsey, Mark Andreessen, of course. And Eric Schmidtz. My governor and JD beefing during the election was wild. Who's your governor? Doesn't have the bite needed in today's political climate. Who is beefing with JD? Oh my god, there's so many people. Hang on, I'm dehydrated. I'm gonna go get water. Oh! I'm dumb. You're so right. I need to share. Do. Here. Aw. Cutie pie. Oh, hey, that's me. Dude, everyone... Oh my god. This was so funny. I'm like at work. I also had today was a stressful family day, alright? But everyone and their mom was fucking live streaming at this, and then, oh my god, Sam Harris! Everyone is talking about the Trump Elon thing. I don't have to talk about the Trump Elon thing, but I don't give a oh my god. It's so brain dead. No, it's not brain dead. But it is brain dead. But it's not. But it is. But it's not. Alright, here you go. You guys can watch Tim Miller.
Hey guys, Sam Stein, managing editor at The Bulwark. I'm joined by Sarah Longwell, our publisher, and Tim Miller in the back of an Uber. We are recording our second video, maybe third video today on Trump Elon, because it's a continuous shit show, just a cascade of shit happening. Tim, you're on the run. You talked about this with Medical. I'm going to set this up. We're recording about 3:20 p.m. on Thursday. The latest salvo from Elon Musk is, I can't even believe I have to say this, is that the reason that Trump is going through this is that he is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT, exclamation point.
Time to drop the really big bomb.
Oh, sorry.
That real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT,
Have a nice
exclamation
day.
Points.
So, Tim,
I have been saying this. I've been saying this. Go through our archives. I am on this. Trump is in the Epstein files. The real conspiracy theory here is that Epstein killed himself while Donald Trump was the president. Okay. And so for all of those people out there with their theories that Hillary Clinton or the deep state or the Jews or whatever were behind Jeffrey Epstein's death, let me tell you, there's only one person that's been covering it up. He was president when Epstein died. He's president now. His name's Donald Trump. And you notice Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have to be in on the game now. Why did they go out there? Why did they go do an interview to talk about how Epstein didn't really kill himself? I don't know. I'm just saying I think Elon's making some good points. And I hope that Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and Andrew Schultz and all the other people that are in the Elon's manosphere who have been asking serious questions about the Epstein case might want to dig into this a little bit further, because I got to tell you, all arrows are pointing one place.
Yeah,
Donald Trump.
No, Tim, the way to do it is you just have to, you're just asking questions. You're not making accusations. You're just asking questions.
I am not only am I just asking questions, I'm pointing to a series of evidence that points to Donald Trump. I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. All I'm saying is if you think there was some foul play, it's hard to say that Hillary Clinton, who was a former first lady sitting at home in Chappaqua, was the one that did it. I'm just saying if you have questions, there's a lot of reasons to think Donald Trump, and now you have the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, former shadow president, saying he's seen some stuff. I don't know. Maybe we can ask Elon. I'm sure he'll be tweeting more about this. And I think this is interesting. I think that this should be... there should be a lot of news coverage about this, and I'm excited to see how it plays out, as they say. Anyway, guys, I got to go to the airport. I got to go to the airport. Good luck analyzing this. We'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, okay. I'll just say, Tim, before you sign off, Elon has tweeted a second time.
Great.
Saying, mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. So
the truth is out there,
anxiously waiting,
and Elon knows it, and it's something that I've been thinking. So we will see. Tell your friends about this. You got friends that are on the Epstein beat. Let's make sure to send this tweet and the video around. Just make sure they, do their research, so to speak. All right. See you guys soon.
All right. So that was Tim with his Alex Jones conspiracy hat on. Thankful and grateful for his work. Definitely won't get sued over that. And on the real, though, I did not have it on my bingo card that Elon was going to drop the Epstein bombs. But this has been a totally freaking crazy day. I mean, obviously, I've never seen anything like this. What do you make of what the hell is happening here? I'll do a recap after I get your take, but I'm just sort of curious. What the hell?
Well, obviously, it's awesome. And I haven't liked Twitter this much in a really long time. I think that, Elon's return to the private sector where he's going to try to improve his companies. I think he's doing a good job of improving X today by dropping this stuff. Do you know he's tweeted over 50 times today about the bill or Trump and either replies or tweets. And I mean, he's got a Kill Bill meme. He's not returning Mike Johnson's calls. Here's the thing. Elon as a scorned, hell hath no fury than an Elon scorned.
Yeah.
He is burning it down, the Epstein files stuff, because I'm gonna really distance myself from Tim's whatever that implication is. What is interesting about this, the idea that Trump tried to bury the Epstein files because he was on Epstein's plane, because he was going to the island.
Yeah.
That is known. I think there is probably, my guess is there's more information about the extent of their relationship, maybe the extent of their travel. And so that would be real. Part of what's interesting to me though was Trump discussing this stuff with Elon? Because if Trump gave Elon that, he's given him a lot of stuff.
Put aside the Epstein files for a second. We all knew that this was going to end in some acrimony, this relationship. I didn't expect, and we knew it was going to happen at some point. I expected it to be faster, but I didn't expect it to be this violent and emotional. It's like they just went from 0 to 100.
Yeah. I got to say, I always thought that Elon posed too much of a risk for Trump to have a big rift with him.
Yeah.
And so I am shocked that the way this was handled, I do think Trump was trying to be conciliatory on the way out the door. Elon will always be with us. But
he gave him a key to the fucking White House. Here's your little gold key, Elon.
He was trying to keep things on a nice thing. But Elon, And the White House is now doing this thing where they're saying the reason that Elon is hacked off about the big, beautiful bill is because it cuts the incentives for EVs, right? They no longer get the cash incentives to buy an EV. And so Elon, he tweeted about this though, and he said, you know what? I think that is garbage because I think it's unfair relative to what you're doing for the fossil fuel industry. But forget that. This is still a disgusting, pork-addled, whatever. And so, like, it is interesting that Elon seems to be so, he must be so angry at them.
This bill is a proxy. This bill is a proxy,
it is.
right?
It's a proxy.
No, he doesn't care about I mean, maybe he cares about the debt and the deficit in theory, but I don't think this explains the level of emotion he's bringing to this. I mean, he's just this is a proxy for feeling like he got screwed over somehow. And maybe it's not the EVs. Maybe it's something else, but I'm curious about the reporting that comes out on this.
My guess is that it's something to do with the reputational damage that Elon has incurred, and also the fact that my guess is they probably early on were like, yeah, man, we're going to cut $2 trillion using Doge, and Trump puts him in charge of it. They elbow out Vivek, and then suddenly everybody's like, there's not a real thing Elon's doing with Doge, is he? And no. So I think that reputationally he feels burned by the whole thing.
Yeah. All right, let me run through, just because we cut a video this morning after Trump's press conference, and I was like, wow, this is really a lot of drama. And then in the subsequent hour, it just got crazy and crazy. So just a few little things. One, Elon decides randomly to stop following Stephen Miller on Twitter. Random. Elon decides to stop following Charlie Kirk on Twitter. Totally don't understand why, but he just did. Elon tweets at Laura Loomer, who says she's on the Hill talking to people who are torn between him and Trump. He tweets, oh, and some food for thought as they ponder this question. Trump has 3.5 years left as president, but I will be around for 40 plus years. Oof. Okay.
I talked about that on the Next Level, about the fact that the Republicans are going to have to choose between a lame duck president and a guy with almost infinite money who was talking about primarying them for voting for this bill.
And that's not the subtext. That's the text.
That's the text.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Ashley St. Clair, who has allegedly a child with Elon, tweets at Donald Trump, hey, at real Donald Trump, let me know if you need any breakup advice. I enjoyed that one. Elon tweets, is it time to create a new political party in America that actually represents the 80% of the middle? The Bulwark Slack channel jokes, oh, no label's going to jump on that one, and no label jumps on that one. Trump goes on his social media, and this is the frustrating part for me. Can't he just get on Twitter so we can just condense our social media feeds?
Oh, I know. What, we've got to go to Truth Social and Twitter.
I mean, yeah, it's so annoying. All right, so he's on Truth Social. Trump says Elon was, quote, wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do, and he just went crazy, all caps. Then he bleats again. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. All right, let's pause there for a second. That one I actually
I didn't see that. That's amazing.
He threatens the contracts. That one perked my ears up a little bit. Would he do it? Oh boy, that would really really fuck up our space program in profound ways. Would he do it?
I mean, it's getting pretty vicious. This is a bad divorce. This is bad.
Someone asked, who gets David Sachs in the custody battle? I'm worried.
Elon does.
What if David doesn't want to go back with Dad?
I mean, I don't know. This is why this is the best day. The only winners are us, and the only losers are them. I disagree strongly, but go ahead. What do we lose? Okay, you make your point, and I will do my rebuttal. Okay, I totally disagree. Go ahead. Okay, here's what we win. We get great content.
Oh, that's true.
Elon's gonna spill the tea.
What the fuck are you guys talking about? I just got back. What? They're both too toxic to not keep lashing back out at one another. True. Didn't Elon hang out with Epstein as well? Or is his wife, or just his, quote, wife, Giselle Maxwell? I didn't know that. This is Max Lind, it looks like. I wish Elon would make V10 Cybertrucks. He looked in on Donald with Miller. I'm dead. That's why his wife is leaving with Elon. Trump Epstein 2028. Some of y'all can't handle two agency men going at it, and it really shows. Okay.
Tea on Trump. Trump's going to spill the tea on him. Their fragile coalition between dark MAGA and populist Bannon MAGA is going to fracture, which I think creates a weakness in the coalition. They will spend more time infighting. Elon, they've lost Elon's muscle. The fact that you're talking about unfollowing, let me tell you what, the purchase power of an Elon Musk retweet for somebody who wanted to be influential. If you're Charlie Kirk, you are sad that Elon's not following you. If you are Stephen Miller, you are worried. I saw Stephen Miller tweet to try to defend the bill and talk about all they were doing on immigration, and it was just, he got lit up all through the comments.
Yeah, he did.
Because Elon's people are there to tell them, like, no, you are lying about this. Yeah. So it might scuttle the actual bill, which means that the Republicans will have a total inability to move their one piece of legislation that they were going to move this session. I think it creates the potential for Elon to do big spending against Trump and his people in the 26. I don't know. Sorry, tell me the downside. Is it about the space program? Is that what you're going to tell me about?
Okay.
Wait, yeah, when he said that before, I was like, wait, I'm sorry. Space program? Like, you're sad that this is going to make horrendous cuts to our space program?
I concede all of that. Upsides galore in respect to the tactics and the politics here, except for a small matter, and this is crazy of me to think about this, but like, there's real danger, I think, in Donald Trump, like, in this position.
I actually just remembered China has a spaceship that with an arm that can rip satellites out of orbit. And if they really wanted to, they could use that to just launch our satellites out of orbit. We wouldn't have Wi-Fi. We wouldn't have GPS. We wouldn't have any surveillance. We wouldn't be able to know if there was a nuclear bomb coming in. Like, some crazy stuff the Chinese can do.
Not like world danger. Like, he's gonna inflict like severe harm to the world when he's saddled with this. Let's say in theory there is some truth to the Elon accusation that he's in the Epstein files, that Trump's in the Epstein files. Like, this is like Nixon in the last moment stuff, right? Where he's like kind of boozing up and he's out of control and we just don't know what kind of...
If they do that, they'd want a World War III. Okay? Duh. And what would we be able to do about that? If we literally had no way of knowing that we were about to get nuked.
Insane stuff he might do in that time period. If this is true, you don't want a president who's got this over his head and who's distracted.
Of course completely. I didn't want this guy to be president. Yeah, you're right. I don't want him to be president. Want him to be
president, period.
I would like him to be impeached, and I would like to get rid of him.
This ratchets it up to a level that we are not familiar with. Who knows what this caged animal is going to do? It's. I think there's badness here.
No.
You disagree?
No. I think that people listen.
I'm enjoying the spectacle. Don't get me wrong.
Actually, let me make a serious, and because it actually is a through line, I think, in our theory of change, meaning how do you avoid America sliding full tilt into an authoritarian moment? And the number one way is for Donald Trump to be a failure in this term. It has been about people, and for that to happen, people need to feel the negative personal consequences. Like I get frustrated that Trump keeps reversing course on the tariffs because I'm like,
because you want it all. Yeah.
I want, he is a bad person with bad ideas who does bad things to the country. And Americans need to understand we should never make this mistake again. And so I think Elon lighting him up. And if Donald Trump has a nervous breakdown about it, okay, well, go in the graveyard with Joni Ernst. That's where people are having nervous breakdowns right now. I'm fine with that.
Let me press you on Bill
That's
Kristol's
so
column
funny.
this morning, because I had differences of opinion on that column. Should Democrats try to strategically reel Elon back into the tent and
No.
use him? No.
Elon.
Where are my nails? They fell off when I went camping, and I haven't put them back on. I need new ones. I want to read Bill Kristol's, I want to read Bill Kristol saying that we should not get Elon Musk back. You may think of Donald Trump as a reckless arsonist, but you can't say the big guy isn't willing to spend some government dollars when it's good for a cause. What? Allotted more than $2 million for celebrity defense attorney to investigate whether DEI policies have been causing plane crash. That's insane. That I thought that was a meme. I literally thought that was a meme. It is usually for Julius Caesar, Shakespeare's, Mark Antony, famously, he came to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Sorry, I was just yawning. Is it time for Democrats to praise Elon Musk? Should the Big Tent anti-Trump coalition welcome back in? Should Democrats who need allies where they can get them be quoting Elon Musk, even if disingenuously, as a reliable oracle on public policy? No. True. Wait, hang on. I don't know if it's true. Yeah, hang on. I understand that it's hard to resist the temptation. Musk is out there attacking the Republican conciliation bill as a disgusting abomination. He's threatening to use his money to help fire Republicans who go along with it. And so some Democrats are eager to welcome Musk to the fold. Ro Khanna previously told The Bulwark he believes Democrats should bring Musk back into the tent. The trouble is that Musk really is a chainsaw-wielding, bureaucracy-breaking villain. True. He may be gone from Washington but return. The evil Musk has done lives on after him. True. Okay, if you want to criticize the Republican bill, you don't need Musk. True. I don't know if this makes, hang on. I don't know if this makes sense, but, like, I agree with this about Musk as, like, his real person self, Musk, and not, but not as, like, as, like, a testament to people who follow Elon Musk. I think that people who follow Elon Musk should see all of this going on and think to themselves, you know, Elon Musk was intelligent enough to know all of this now. Why the fuck is he waiting until he's getting kicked out by Donald Trump to start? Like, why did he wait until it was beneficial to him? And they should realize that. They should be aware of that. And then they should, like, realize that he's a dipshit and then unfollow him.
Elon's
Wouldn't that?
burned
But
in-
hold on. Wouldn't that
Yeah.
sort of go to your point though? Like weaponize Elon against Trump a little bit?
there's no tent for Elon. This is about Elon. Elon and this I watched Mountainhead last night.
What is that?
It's the new HBO movie. It's got Steve Carell, and it's about 4 tech
Oh yeah,
dominant
yeah.
people. It's by the people who did Succession.
Is it good?
It's mediocre, but there's some very, very interesting stuff in there that Tim had made a point, or maybe JVL made this point, but in any event, one of them made the point that the fact that these guys have so much money and so much access, like one of the things that happens in the movie is they're like, oh, well, I can shut down the grids in places. Like I can do this and this and this. Yeah. Elon has so much money and as a result, so much power, and it is too much. We have allowed these tech oligarchs to have too much power and control. They now control our politics, Peter Thiel, JD Vance. And so I think both of them destroying their credibility against one another is important. I think Americans have to find a way to reject this.
Yeah, I'm into that. I think 2 things to add to that. One is, and I know this is non-controversial, but it's worth stating. Imagine if this was a woman in this leadership position. I mean, they'd be laughed out of the boardroom. They would be like called hysterical and emotional. Men are too fragile. We need.
It's so true. So fucking true.
We need to get rid of male leaders. It's a problem. 2 is, I'm not so sure Elon's going to have that much money anymore. I mean, obviously he's going to have a lot of money. His stock is down significantly. It was down 17% when we started talking. It's now 13.5%, but that's a huge loss in one day. If you're on the board of Tesla, I mean, you got to be looking at this, be like, you just shot 55 tweets off about a government bill and you're pissing off the president and threatening our contracts. Like, let's get this guy the fuck out of here. This is nuts.
I do think that's true. I mean, look, Elon has enough money and clout to go it alone in a lot of ways. But like, Elon's not doing himself any favors. Like he's gonna end this whole thing alone. Like when you say like, do the Democrats reel him back in? Like, no, Elon gets no home. Let Elon he has a lot of things. He has a platform. He has many companies. He has enormous government contracts. But like, I would love it if Trump canceled. It's insane that our government relies on Elon to the extent that it does.
Yeah. It's crazy. One person, one contractor for so much.
You cannot exist like that.
Yeah. Well, that'll be an interesting outcome if this is where it ends. All right. Final thoughts? Anything you left on the cutting block?
I wouldn't want people to miss the fact that I try to be a person who, look, I don't want harm to come to anybody, whatever. But these are bad people hitting each other with their mutual badness. And I am so here for it. I love it.
Do we see the Epstein files if they actually exist?
This is because you know what? Donald Trump was traveling with Epstein. Like we as a society, just like let it go. It's like we all, not we, us, because obviously the Bulwark we didn't, but like average people were just like, whatever. I don't care if he's an adjudicated rapist. I don't care if he was on that plane. But the fact that his coalition has allowed themselves to become Epstein conspiracy addled, as though it were somebody on the left, like they need to drink the tonic of truth that is Donald Trump was the one doing that, like on Epstein's plane. People need this. Everybody's getting what they deserve.
Are you going full
Everyone's
Tim here?
getting what. No,
are you going full Tim Miller here?
Well, so I don't understand. Actually, you'd have to explain to me the conspiracy theory about Epstein dying, and
Tim's theory is that Trump was the president.
Killed?
Bill Barr was the attorney general. Epstein was killed when they were in power, and therefore, I don't know, 2 and 2. It's crazy. Let's not dip our toes in those waters.
Dylan, stop being rude in my chat before I time out you.
I don't even know enough to have a conspiracy theory on this. What I do know is like the real part, the part of Trump being on Epstein's plane, going to that island where they were abusing young girls, is real and which should matter.
And there's video of the 2 of them like dancing together. It's fucking weird. All right. Well, we're going to be watching. We'll probably end up cutting another video tomorrow because this shit is just never ending.
Tweeting through it. Elon, keep tweeting through it.
Yeah. Trump, get on Twitter so we don't have to check Truth Social, please. All right, Sarah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Really do. Thank you guys for watching this. Subscribe to the feed where you get all this great, juicy content. We'll keep you posted, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, so we took a, 20-minute, 30-minute break, and I knew this was going to happen because in the interim, we've had two things occur. One is that Elon has now said he's going to decommission some of his government contracts for SpaceX in light of Donald Trump saying he was going to cancel the government contracts. Great. But the big one is that Elon has, it seems, embraced impeachment. He is retweeting Ian Miles Chung, a Elon fan influencer online guy, who says, quote, "President versus Elon, who wins? My money's on Elon. Trump should be impeached and JD Vance should replace him." Elon just responds with yes.
Yes.
So, Sarah, it seems like your theory of the destruction is happening in real time.
Sarah's always right in the 20 minutes that it took us to get here. So first of all, Ian Michael Chong is like some weird MAGA influencer that I think lives like not in this country, but
he is foreigner, yes.
But he is followed by the MAGA universe, and this is where the splitting of this coalition right now into sides, like we are watching it happen in real time, is an enormous development in how this plays out. But also, okay, so calling for impeachment, I mean, the Epstein thing was nuclear. Calling for impeachment is nuclear. Getting MAGA people
double nuclear
to start saying he should be impeached, get JD Vance in there, which it does expose that techno-fascist side.
So
those
maybe
are
they're
JD Vance people.
Maybe they're not as attached to Trump as we thought. I don't know. I when I started the day, I was like, well, Trump's going to win them all over. And maybe I think the congressmen, the elected officials probably are mostly.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has written a long missive about how she is still holding fast with Trump.
Yeah, I think those people are Trump, but the influencer crowd, the breakdown is different.
Well,
much
because
different.
Trump can influence whether or not someone wins an election and how money is allocated in those elections. But Elon, this is where Trump, in many ways, won the culture. But he won the culture because he won the tech bros.
Right.
And losing this crowd is a problem for them. Like, it just is.
So Tim had a theory yesterday when we were talking about this. And this is when it was like, the beginning stages of the war. And it seemed so quaint yesterday. It was just like a little volley here and there. But Tim compared this to when he was on the Jeb campaign. And by that, he said, we were on the Jeb campaign and we were like, well, we got to craft our press releases and make sure they're nice. And we don't want to overstep it and so on and so forth. And Trump would just fire rapid fire tweets, just going crazy. And it was moving at a speed that they weren't accustomed to.
Yeah.
And what's interesting now is that it's reversed. Like Trump is out there putting out a bleat and, Elon, by the time that bleat gets sent out into the ecosystem, Elon's fired off 25 tweets, including, he's in the Epstein files and impeach the motherfucker. And
we're decommissioning the dragon. I don't even know what this is.
I don't know what the fuck that is. Doesn't sound good.
Sounds like a problem. Is Elon going to start pulling? This is why I always thought they couldn't afford this blow up. Yeah. The intertwining of the sort of Elon, both culturally and in terms of actual infrastructure that Elon both provides and then needs. Everybody knows Elon was digging around, not just I think Kara Swisher's theory was always he's hoovering up people's information and maybe, but more importantly, he could get every tweak to things that make it easier for Starlink. He could look at all of the information that the FTC had on his competitors. There was a million ways in which getting under the hood of the federal government benefited Elon Musk.
And he was trying for it. He was looking for all that information. And he got more power, even as he got less popular. And now he's wielding that power against Trump. Fascinating. By the way, Tesla stock ended the day down 14.27%. Not great.
So real wealth destruction there.
Clearly. All right, Barry wants us to go live. We're not going to do that yet. I'm sure he's going to pitch us on doing it later tonight, so we'll think about it. In the meantime, enjoy this video. Maybe we'll come back and do an update in 20 minutes. We don't know. Crazy things are happening. Sarah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Talk to you.
I'm answering all of Hunter's questions right now for the Discord. And so I'm typing so furiously. I saw someone comment that this looked fun.
You may not always have that moment, especially in an Oval Office spray. It's very crowded.
Wait, they call it a spray?
That's what we call it.
Oh, really?
I know we have this like terminology that makes no sense, like the
Yeah.
pool, the spray.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more of a fire hose than a spray.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think I
lines.
want to talk about this anymore. Hey, everybody. It's Jon Stewart. It's the Weekly Show podcast with Jon Stewart. Welcome to the show. I'm trying desperately not to push myself up out of my chair for the beginning. For some reason, that's my set. So now you can't see this, but I'm slouching. It's the first show of our second season, and I'm beginning it on a slouch to try and prevent myself from lifting off the chair. It is Wednesday. God knows what's going to be happening by Thursday. Ukraine could have destroyed the rest of Russia's nuclear equipped planes. It could have not. This whole thing could be over. I just have no damned idea. But I will say the one thing that did catch my eye, and this is it almost seems like a minor occurrence, but they're pulling the name the USS Harvey Milk off of a Navy destroyer, I believe, and it just reminds me of what this administration is and the priorities of this administration and the ridiculously just petty and malicious way in which they go about. I mean, for God's sakes, they're removing the name. Now, Harvey Milk, for those who don't know, was an activist for gay rights. He was assassinated in San Francisco, along with the mayor of San Francisco, by, I think, a kind of a right-wing nutbag who claimed that fast food had driven him insane. And, I think the guy's already served like, 4 years, 5 years, some shit like that. But the guy was in the military. He was like a submarine, and he was kicked out of the military. He got a less than honorable discharge out of the military because he was gay and fought for gay rights and was an important figure, not just in that movement, but for people who wanted the military to represent the actual people of the country. A military, I think, is always strongest when it is reflective of everyone that it is protecting. That's just, it makes it a more representative and better force. And they just removed the name. And not only did they remove the name for no fucking reason, they did it at the beginning of Pride Month, which is just, again, the dickishness is the point. In what way? Why would you do that other than it's a move of hostility and nothing else? Oh, I'm gonna break up with my significant other. Oh, now? No. I'm gonna wait for their birthday. I'm gonna wait until it can have the most shitty impact on all that. And it's just one more dispiriting note on this crew that can't be out of there fast enough. It's just,
Guys, for the record, I do think that Epstein did kill himself. Unfortunately, I would also kill myself if I was arrested for the sex trafficking ring that I found that I created of minors up to the age of 14. I personally, I don't know if there's much of a story there.
a constant stream of hostile moves because of how persecuted they are, that one of the ships in the entire U.S. Navy bore the name of someone who was an activist for gay rights. That can't stand. Confederate soldiers? No. That's okay. We can have that. I mean, for God's sakes, he they changed the name of Fort Bragg. Bragg was a horrific Confederate general. They didn't even like him, and they changed it to, I think, Fort Liberty, something along those lines. And he went and changed it back by finding another soldier. Happens to be like a brave soldier from World War II, also named Bragg. This is what we're dealing with. And I don't mean to keep harping on it. It's just one of those things I saw and I just thought, God damn it. It's been 4 months. Jesus. But speaking of, on a different note, someone who is dealing with it directly, who faces down the torrent of these individuals and does it, I think, better than almost anybody out there right now. And I'm very pleased to have on as a guest. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today in our first show back, Caitlin Collins. Ladies and gentlemen, what a day we have. It's the first show of the new season, and we are joined by Caitlin Collins, CNN anchor, chief White House correspondent. The show, The Source with Caitlin Collins, is weeknights at 9 p.m. on CNN. Caitlin!
I'm looking for a third job if you have any producer spots.
Are you the only one that does that? Are you the only White House correspondent who does a nightly show?
Yeah. I mean, because it's insane. But
it is insane.
Because I took a small hiatus from the White House for 2 years when I was in New York, but now that I'm back, you know, when you leave the White House, it's this big tall gate, you go through security. And like before, when you would leave, it's like, okay, your day's over. Like, yeah, you got to stay on the phone, but your job's done. Now when I'm leaving through the gate, like saying bye to the Secret Service guards, I'm like going to my second job. I'm like, okay, job 1 done. Now job 2 is about to begin. And I'm like, you know, it's a lot.
And you guys moved into a new studio. Did they make you like also bring in the furniture and all that? Is this a budget situation where they're just making Caitlin Collins do all the work for everybody?
Yeah, my dad called me the night after we moved to the newsroom. Our new set is in the
Yeah.
newsroom instead of just a, you know, typical TV studio. And he was like, "Where were you last night?" And I thought he meant that he couldn't find the show or he couldn't see it on TV. And I was like, "What do you mean? I was at work." And he's like, "No, but where were you? What was that?" He didn't understand.
I like that your dad is just like one of those bloggers on X
Yes,
who's just like,
yes.
"What's with the new studio, Caitlin?"
Yeah, he's like, "Where's the old sign? Can I have the old sign?" And I was like, I was trying to explain to my dad, he's gonna kill me if he hears this, that it's a digital sign. It's not like a physical sign that's behind me with the logo.
I'm pretty sure Trump and Epstein had a falling out before he got arrested. So I don't think Trump would have pardoned him because they weren't chill like that. And also that would have looked so sus if he pardoned him like that. Like, what the fuck? Right now I'm looking through this this profile that got written back in 2022. Was this still during the campaign or was this no? Did he serve 2 terms or 1? Oh my god, I don't even care enough to know. It outlines the authoritarian impulses that J.D. Vance had back in 2022, all of which have already gotten way worse. What the Epstein files have to say about Trump? Oh my gosh. Oh my god. Did he actually say he was thinking about pardoning Diddy? That's fucking crazy. That's insane.
Ago. But anyway, it was quite funny.
He wanted swag. He wanted swag from the old Caitlin Collins show.
Yes, which, you know, I'm gonna get it for him. You know, it's maybe a little Father's Day surprise.
That's kind of you. That's a very good daughter thing to do. That's a lovely thing. Father's Day's coming up, and you're going to get him the neon sign from your old studio. I like that. If you were
He would like that. It sounds insane, but my dad would like.
No,
that.
he sounds like a good dude. Where does he live?
My whole family lives in Alabama, which is where I'm from, born, raised.
Where in Alabama?
Right outside Montgomery. It's a city
Okay.
called Prattville.
Oh, how big is that?
That's like 38,000 people
Oh,
or so. Everyone
okay.
thinks I'm like from like a one horse, one stoplight town,
Right.
but it's actually a fully functioning city and a great place to grow up. I love it. I was just there a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's nice. You know, Alabama, surprise, you know, people have the impression it's got kind of a hot comedy scene. Like Birmingham, one of the great cities to play, you know, when you're touring and doing that kind of stuff. Alabama's kind of the only problem I ever had in Alabama was there was one area, this is back when I was working at MTV, where it was in between Alabama and Florida, and they called it Florabama.
Do you have a problem with that place? Because I have said previously that like if I ever get married, I want to get married at the Florabama because I love it so much. And for people who don't know, Florabama is a bar that is on the
Yes.
Florida-Alabama state line. It crosses them. And it used to be like a small package store, kind of like Shack type thing. And now they've built it up into this massive bar. And what I love about the Florabama is you can be there on a Saturday night, like listening to some cover band. There's like, you know, underwear lining the walls and hanging from the ceilings. And then on Sundays, they host church.
That is correct.
They host
Yes.
church on Sundays. So you can go to the service, get a Bloody Mary while you're there. It's great.
The only thing I remember about Floribama was everybody made it pretty clear that
Is Harvey Weinstein not in jail? Did I not see Candace Owens just interview him like through a jail cell? Is that an old clip? He's literally in jail. What are you guys talking about? This was a month ago! I mean, he's going to Are you guys okay? Am I being fucked with right now? There is a lot of people in chat saying that. Well, a lot being like the 4, right? There's only like 10 of you guys watching, so the fuck? insane. Yeah, no, he is in prison. I just saw Miss Candace Owens give him an interview. Thank you.
It was basically like being in international waters. That Floribama,
There's no laws.
when you were in this jurisdiction of this bar, it was like being on Silk Road. It basically, whatever happened there, lawlessness or otherwise. Your job as White House correspondent, when you used to do that job, what time do you get out? Let's just go logistics for a little bit. What time when you are a White House press correspondent, what's your day hours wise?
I think it kind of depends on what your responsibilities are. For a TV reporter who is on cable that is covering the White House, previously during Trump round one, as I call it, we were on the clock probably till 10 or 10:30.
At night?
Yeah, because a lot of stuff happens at night, like depending on who's in office. You can always kind of determine any presidents, like, are they early or are they someone who trends later?
Trump, not a morning person.
Trump is kind of 24/7 though. But I was looking at I check his Truth Social in the morning. I was looking at it today. He posted three times between 2:15 and 2:45 a.m. last night. About China and the Fed chair and what's happening on Capitol Hill.
Are those scheduled, or you think he's actually up?
No, I think he's up. I think he doesn't sleep that much. He sleeps like 3-4 hours a night.
That breaks people. I don't know if you know this, but that's how Stalin used to break people. He would
Nuh-uh.
He would only let them sleep like 3 hours, 4 hours a night, and they would go insane.
Yeah. Well, we wrote a whole story. I was just thinking about this during the Middle East trip. We wrote a story during his first term about how a lot of White House staff didn't love flying on Air Force One with him because on the way to a Middle East or a foreign trip because he doesn't sleep on the plane. And so they can't sleep on the plane because he's talking or, wants to meet or have these conversations. And so they're like land on the ground for like this 6-day slog and they haven't slept at all. And it's I had one source who told me that the president sent someone to wake them up when they were sleeping because he wanted to talk to them about something. And they were just kind of describing what it's like to be a staffer on Air Force One.
So this whole thing, we could have avoided this whole presidency if we had just gotten him a friend, if we had just gotten him somebody to talk to. He should be the country's social director, not the president. Like, it's just, when do you sleep? If you're doing White House press corps duty and then you're doing your show and then you're going with him on a plane to the Middle East, when are you sleeping?
I definitely sleep more than he does. I will say that. I don't know. I don't sleep a ton either as well, but I think it's just because, I don't like to miss anything. And you're always like kind of paying attention to what's going on. And, after the show ends at 10 p.m. Eastern, I'm kind of still buzzing from like, our interviews and what's been going on and still talking to people after the show. And then, you're up early in the morning to see what's going on. But it's good. And the schedule is crazy and it sounds, I think, insane. But I think after covering Trump round one and then doing the 9 o'clock for a few years before starting this, my expectations were totally clear about what the hours would be and how crazy it was going to be.
So let's talk about the cadence difference then, because you talked about covering Trump once. So then when Biden comes in, is it like all of a sudden you're on a resort in Sandals Resort, like nobody's bothering you? What was the difference in terms of how the pace of the day went or the rhythm of your entire job? How did that shift?
Yeah. And I covered the first 2 years of Biden. And Trump was all I had ever known in terms of he was the first president I covered, the first White House I covered. So I never covered Obama or Bush. So that was my expectation, that like, yeah, you're at the White House and they say, hey, there's going to be a press conference in 30 minutes, like get ready.
Right.
Meanwhile, I think at Biden's first press conference, they announced it like 5 days in advance. Like we knew so far in advance that it was happening. And so like simple things like that were the biggest changes, I think, in terms of that.
That's insane. That like they just announce press conferences at the drop of a hat because you have to prepare for those. You have to have like statistics and notes and shit and prepare for those. But no, because they just recite the same propaganda talking points over and over again, and they have blank papers.
But Biden was actually quite busy during the first year and 2 years in office because one, COVID was still happening when he took office. That was a huge thing for him, obviously, in terms of people actually getting vaccinated because they were starting to roll out. And two, then Russia invaded Ukraine, and that happened. It was about 10:30 p.m. Eastern when Russia first started attacking Ukraine. I was at the White House when it broke out.
At 10:30 at night, you were still at the White House?
Yes, because when there's certain things going on, you kind of know to stay. Actually, the night Trump got COVID, I stayed at the White House late for something, working on some reporting. And then was when we started to get word that a close aide to him had gotten COVID, which obviously then, this was like a huge moment. And so we actually stayed on air that morning, I think until 5 a.m. We never left and just kept reporting and covering it. And then, at 5 a.m. you get home and you kind of like, you can't go to sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning when you've just been covering history. And you're kind of just, your mind is still racing. And, covering the White House is just, there is literally no job like it. And you always have to be prepared that anything can happen.
Is it a job I would find for myself, I think, I'm slightly neurotic. So I would imagine that
Slightly?
those nights, settle down, Collins. Let's not. Folks, all right. So we do ads on this show. You got to do ads on the show. Every now and again, one of them comes across you and you're like, oh, damn, is that real? And that's what we got today. We're sponsored by Incogni. Thousands of companies, you know this, collecting, aggregating, trading your personal data without you knowing anything about it. You have the right to request data brokers to delete what information they have about you and protect your privacy. Now, the bad news is it would take you, I guess you would say, your whole life to try to get that done if you tried to do that manually, because it would be a giant pain in the butt. But that's what this company is. Incogni, it does that for you automatically. How do robocallers get your number? You go to block each one. And from Turkey? I don't know people in Turkey. Why? The answer, data brokers. They sell your phone number to companies to build these call lists. Incogni helps remove your phone number and reduce the calls. It helps you protect your privacy. Incogni takes your personal data off the market by reaching out to these data brokers on your behalf, requesting your personal data removal, and dealing with their objections. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Did I put an exclamation point on the end of that? Because that's what I was trying to do. Go to incogni.com/Stuart. Use code Stuart to get 60% off an annual plan. Incogni.com/Stuart. Use code Stuart. 60% off your annual plan to take your personal data off the market today. Where you been, Incogni? Where you been all my life? I would imagine that I would constantly be thinking, oh, shit, I should have said boom. Or I should have, are you replaying the day's events? Or are you working forward? What is your process? Because one of the things that I think suits you so well is you have a directness. Like, there's not a lot of wasted verbiage and things. You're very clear about what you want to do. You know, I'm down with Collins. I think I'd say to them, let Collins ask the question. Forget about going to these other idiots. Just let Collins ask the questions. That'd be fine. But do you find yourself replaying or more forward contingency planning? What's your process?
I would never, ever compare myself to an athlete as someone who appreciates athletes and loves sports and is like a diehard Alabama fan. But I do think in terms of how it operates on a daily basis and how quickly it has to move, you do kind of have to think of it where, like, if the play happened and you didn't, catch the ball or do your job on that, you kind of just have a few seconds to think about it and move forward and try to improve. You're
going with the Ted Lasso, got to be a goldfish. You got to forget the play and move to the next one.
I don't know if you should forget it. I think you should keep it because you have so much to remember as a White House reporter. And I think that, if something happens or an interview doesn't go the way I wanted or a press briefing, I didn't, follow up on the question the way I wanted to. Yeah, I lament over it for a little bit and then I move on because there's another moment coming up.
Was there one that stuck in your craw in a way that surprised you?
There have been some. I think there was one, there's been some press conferences where, one thing I learned really quickly during Trump, which I actually think was great training as a reporter, is becoming a reporter, because you just have to be on all the time. And there's not really a ton of room for error. And so I was in the briefing where during COVID, when there weren't a ton of reporters, because we were rotating to keep the presence small, when Trump came in and we were prepared to ask about ventilators or swabs or something. And Trump comes in with this DHS employee and they're talking about sunlight being a potential cure and a treatment for COVID. And what you have to do, I think, as a reporter is just be ready, be quick on your feet, be ready to adjust. You could have the best question going in there on ventilators or swabs and really need an answer to it. But you have to move on if the news is changing or there's something, you're kind of constantly registering what's important and what's urgent. In terms of forward thinking, though, I really try to be forward thinking. Like, I always keep a running list. I was just updating one yesterday for someone I'm trying to interview, of people I want to interview, who I have right now no shot of interviewing. They have not said yes. They're not even answering my calls, but I keep a running list.
This is a physical list that you keep, or on your phone.
It's on my notes, on my.
Who's number one? Let's go. Let's get it done.
Well, I don't know if I believe in manifesting if I say it on the podcast.
I'm gonna doggedly pursue this like I'm Caitlin Collins in the White House press room until you give me a satisfactory answer. How large is the list? Let me put it that way.
It's constantly evolving because sometimes I do succeed and can knock people off of it. But, like around the election, I had like 6 people that I really wanted to interview before the election because I thought, there's certain voices and certain moments. And that's the art of interviewing and the difficulty, which you know very well, which is you don't want to just interview anyone whenever. You want them in the right moment when people want to hear from them. And that is kind of my daily battle is booking the right guest and trying to get people to come on.
That's so poetic. Like, you don't want to just book the right person. You want to book them in the right moment. Okay. She ate with that. She's sure in for office.
And talk and be willing to sit for an interview. And I'm always in the best mood when I've booked someone really good. Or like, when we got Attorney General Bill Barr for an interview, we interviewed him twice.
Was that a nice one?
Yeah. But I had a running list of questions for him long before he said yes, because I was just always hoping that he would say yes to me eventually.
Right. I feel like interviewing Bill Barr, it's like interviewing, I don't know, charcoal. Like he's just this like there's no, you would say that. That is something you would say. You know, it's so matter of fact. And you have to protect yourself, I would imagine. I sometimes get very emotional when I'm doing those, but I notice you're able to not take the bait of the moment. You stay on what you're doing. Trump can say, that's a dumb question. Nobody watches you. But you don't seem to take the bait. Is that something you have worked on, or is that something that is part of your personality?
I truly don't think there's anything that the president could say to me that would really surprise me, because I'm so familiar with, kind of his tactics or how he is. I mean, he did this at our town hall. This happened before when he kicked me out of an Oval event, when he wouldn't let me go to any other events at the White House because he didn't like the questions I asked in an Oval Office event. It's often a tactic, I think, and a deflection tactic in terms of not wanting to answer the question. And so, I also think that as a reporter, you kind of have to go into these moments prepared for anything. And if you really are, and you're not expecting to be treated super nicely and for them to call on you and everyone to, wait for you to get your question out, and assume that you're operating in good faith. If you go into it kind of ready for that, then, nothing can really throw you off. And I think truly also you have to remember, what are you doing there? You're there to ask a question. I'm not there to get in a back and forth with the president about, ratings or my credibility or whether he likes me or doesn't like me that day.
Right.
The point is, because that's a distraction from asking about the person who, the administration admitted was wrongly deported. And what are they doing with that? And so I think that's always kind of just my goal is to not get thrown off of what I'm going in there to do, which is my job.
And it's so interesting because I would say this White House, and you can compare it having been in, you talked about tactics. It feels like they're very well practiced in how not to actually answer what they're being asked. And it almost feels at times like an exercise in artificial intelligence. Like this press secretary feels a little bit like a Turing test. Like it's just so focused on delivering. So all the questions are, what is the statement that I'm going to receive that's been designed? And oftentimes those statements are filled with falsehoods and misdirects and things like that. How do you break through this kind of artificial intelligence that you're sitting there in real time, as you said. You've got all this preparation, and she's just delivering a line. Well, even the other day when you asked her, I think about, I think it was what the OMB had said, or what the, was it Office of Management Budget?
Yeah, about the CBO score, about how much the bill's going to add to the deficit.
That's right. And you had brought up, what it had been scored at. And she went into a whole thing about they're always wrong. And they were wrong by $500 billion, but she provided no context on the idea that they had said we wouldn't generate 1.5 trillion and we ended up not generating $1 trillion. So it was still a huge deficit problem.
Right. And also, a lot of what was said there wasn't true about how their scores are actually pretty good, but you have to kind of choose your moments.
And the gold standard for what people use for legislation. It just is what it is.
And we're working on this for tonight for the show, but there's so many moments, and Democrats do this too, where they criticize and villainize the CBO when they don't like what it's saying about what they would like to get passed. But when it says something that they do like or something bad about their opponents, then they are all about the CBO. And so the CBO is getting thrown around like a football here. And also there's like I counted 4 independent analyses outside of the government that also say it will add to the deficit. So anyway, that's what, multiple experts who don't have a dog in the fight say about what the bill will do. But in terms of, I think no press secretary really wants to fully answer your question. I think that oftentimes they do try to take whatever you ask and use their talking points or say what they would like to put out there. And that is where it comes back on the reporters, I think, to ask a smarter, direct question that can't really be answered with talking points, or anyone listening to it would say, well, that wasn't really an answer to that question.
Right.
And also the key is in following up. I think one thing, that has happened in the press corps, and also should happen more, I think, regularly for anyone, is if a question doesn't get an answer and then they move on, another reporter should ask that question and should follow up and say, well, actually, but that's the key of listening and being there in the moment.
So I don't know if you're familiar with John Mulaney, who's a comedian.
Yeah.
Very fun. So he's doing a show on late night. And this is going to seem like a weave, Collins, but it's not. It's not a weave.
Well, I'm familiar with weave, so I'm good with it.
You're familiar with the weave, so it's going to seem like it. So on his program, he's doing Everybody's Live show. And he set up a thing where he's going to fight 3 teenagers. John Mulaney's an adult man. He's a large man. Probably, I'd say he's 6 foot, 6'1". He's not the strongest guy in the world, but he's beefy for a comic. And he's going to fight 3 teenagers. Settle down. There's no reason to go there. So he's going to fight 3 teenage boys. Now, not one of these boys measures up to Mulaney in terms of sinewy old man strength or anything else along terms of leverage and the way to fight. And the fight, which happens at the end of the show, is chaos. He's running around and there's 3 kids and he grabs one, then he grabs another, and then something happens. Caitlin, what do you think happens?
I don't know.
The hive learns. The 3 teenagers realize,
power in numbers.
If we work together, if I grab one leg and I grab one leg and we get him on the ground, you can choke him out. Why don't the White House press corps learned from these teenage boys, Caitlin. Teenage boys learned this in 30 seconds of fighting John Mulaney. Why don't you guys, if the purpose of this is to break through the defenses, because that's what they are, you know, this is a battle between real information and a political machine that does not want to offer it up. So there's real strategies here. Why don't they do that?
One, that was a really good weave, and I thought an apt weave.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But I actually think that we do, and maybe it's not perfect, and there should be more of it. I'll take that point. But I think, I mean, I'm thinking right now, we had a lot of complaints from White House officials when the group chat broke, and we could see all the information in there, we could read the text. You know, I talked to retired 4-stars who said that's classified information. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. This isn't a political statement. It's classified. I can read it. I know classified information. And, you know, there was a day at the White House where they were just denying that it was classified. That was their position. And I think the question probably got asked, you know, 4 different times, 5 different ways inside the briefing room in terms of how they could make that argument that it wasn't classified and what they were basing that on. And it was kind of reporter after reporter asking the same thing. And there was a real frustration on the White House's side. But it wasn't that every reporter wanted to ask the same question. It was just that it wasn't getting a sufficient answer. And so people kept asking. And I think that there is a power and a strength in that in terms of, you know, following up on something and, you know, seeing what they say, or the White House has been saying this is not going to add to the deficit, following up on that because so many different things say that it will add to the deficit. And so I do think there's strength in that.
Is there any kind of, to go back to maybe the sports metaphors, is there a pre-game meeting for the White House correspondents where you guys can sit, you know, look, there's no question they have a meeting. You know, we know enough about how the White House works that they sit in a meeting and they try and conjure up, these are the questions that are going to come, and this is the way that you have to answer it. Could there be an analogous meeting that takes place for all the White House correspondents, almost like where they're a team as well, team information or team truth or whatever you want to call yourselves? By the way, we make fabulous T-shirts. And I don't want to get into the merch right now, but I think there's a real merch opportunity here.
For the White House Correspondents Association?
It's certainly better than that fucking dinner. I'll tell you that much.
Well, maybe if we wore T-shirts at the dinner, people would like it more.
All right. I think they might. But do you get my point?
I get your point. But then I think the other side of that is, you know, reporters aren't all working for the administration. That's all the comms and press staff all working together under one boss. We all work at different organizations. We have different viewerships, different audiences.
But for purportedly the same goal, no?
For the same goal, but different questions on, you know, the problem
Good night, Dylan.
is, or the, not problem, but I think the challenge.
I'm probably gonna log off. I'm like fucking non-verbal right now. I'm done. I'm confused because I was under the impression that this was an old story. Well, now I'm confused if this was like 2 different stories or if this is the same story. But like I remember reading this leak back in April about Palantir was gonna use like their surveillance technology to start doing like facial recognition or some shit, to work with ICE to like start doing deportations, right? They're gonna have like a centralized hub with new like analytics and everything, okay? And then I got paywalled, so whatever. But then I'm like, find me other articles related to this, okay? Got this one, but then this one says it was last updated like just like a week ago. So this is probably like the most recent story. But then what the fuck happened like a month ago? What was the difference? So was this like the starter? Sorry. System will also what did I get hit with over here? Boom, 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 boom. 4 big booms. Okay, initially reported by 404 Media. Journal communications reveal Palantir's involvement with ICE. Palantir already maintains the ICE system, which is utilized for homeland security. New immigration OS. Okay, how is it being filed though? Like what is it doing? That was such a bullshit article. It didn't even give me any information about anything. Immigration OS. Palantir works with the Obama administration. This isn't giving me any of the information I need. I want to know what the fuck this leak was. How do I get past this paywall? Free. Please. Free. Bruh. Oh my god. I'm gonna kill myself. Alright, whatever.
There's also different things to ask about. There are so many topics going into.
Hang on, I'm sorry. How is Wayback Machine gonna get me past the paywall? Like, isn't that for like deleted tweets and such? Like, oh, that's sick. All right. No, I didn't know how to use Wayback Machine. Thank you.
To a press briefing where I have probably about one a week, or going into an Oval Office meeting with the president where typically it turns into press conferences, that I think, different reporters have different things that they want to ask about. And I think that's fine. We're not a monolith, and different people want to ask different things. We don't all have to ask about the same thing. I just think, oftentimes there is one pervasive story of the day. Or I think of when President Trump was meeting with President Bukele in the Oval Office, right after the Supreme Court said that they needed to facilitate the return of the guy who was wrongly deported there. I was kind of surprised that it actually had not been brought up in the first, several questions until it got to me. Oftentimes Trump does not call on me first when we go in there.
Mm-hmm. But he does still call on you. I will say this. He can be very antagonistic with you, but it's also pretty clear that he likes sparring with someone of quality, and that he does. I almost think he needs it. He needs to be challenged by someone that he thinks has some gravitas or authority. Otherwise, I don't think it challenges him. The game's not fun for him unless he feels like he's going to get pushed somehow.
Yeah, and I've heard from sources and White House officials around him and just people who are his friends and his allies who say he does like that. And he actually doesn't, speak fondly of people who ask him really easy questions or silly questions. I think oftentimes the moment he'll say, I love that question, or that was a great question. But I think also he respects tough questions and often, takes them. And he won't come to me first, typically. This has kind of been a pattern that has developed this term. But he will eventually come to me maybe 2 or 3 questions in. and typically wants to hear. I mean, there was a moment where in the Oval Office he said, "Okay, everyone, like let's see what she's going to ask today."
Right.
Of course, my question was perfectly normal and on topic.
I remember that, and he said, "What did he say? Why do you have to ask such a nasty question, or something along those lines?"
Yeah, he asked why I couldn't just say thank you
Why
after
couldn't
we
you
were
say thank you?
questioning
That's what it was.
about the guy that they said was wrongly deported to
Right.
El Salvador. And so, yeah, but I think the most important part is going in there and making sure that the questions that need to be asked get asked. And we can't always choose the answers, but.
So what's a successful interaction like in your mind when you're in there and you're going to, and I think part of it is people don't, the speed of all this and the fact that it's a constant churn plays to the advantage of the White House. Because I think, as you said, they're working together and they're facing off a bunch of independent contractors that are somewhat scattered in terms of what they want. So what's, in your mind, a successful interaction? Is it just to get the question, or is it in your mind to get something that reveals a truth, or is it to set like a tent post of their response that you can deconstruct later on? In other words, get them to take a position, understanding that in that moment, you won't be able to litigate that position as well as you might in the future. So that sets something up that allows you later on to really dissect it in a way that gets to what the actuality is.
I think all three, honestly, because one, yeah, you do want to get them on the record and just what their answer is. And maybe you're not going to litigate it with, oh, well, actually, that's not what that says, or here's facts that don't back up what you're saying. You may not always have that moment, especially in an Oval Office spray. It's very crowded.
Wait, they call it a spray?
That's what we call it.
Oh, really?
I know we have this like terminology that makes no sense, like the
Yeah.
pool, the spray.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more of a fire hose than a spray.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think I want to talk about this anymore. It's making me very uncomfortable.
And we go in, but I do think you want to get them on the record. One, if the Supreme Court has ruled something, or a judge has struck down something they've done, or Elon Musk has come out against his bill, you want to get them on the record on that first.
Like his black eye was, you got him on the record saying, yeah, it was my kid. My kid punched me in the face because I asked him to.
And I wasn't in the room that day, but when I was watching it, we weren't in the pool that day. I was watching it, and the reporter who did ask, I was like, thank you, because everyone who's watching is saying, wait, does he have a black eye? What's going on? And wondering what happened. And so it was, that reporter didn't go into the room thinking, I'm going to ask Elon Musk about his black eye.
But he noticed it.
Yeah, it's just like, being able to do that in the moment. But then I also think, one, yes, you want to stake a goalpost down, but two, you do want to get an answer sometimes. But sometimes it's also just important to ask the question, because I think a non-answer can be just as revealing as an answer from a president. And so I think that is, kind of always the goal when you're going in there and just thinking, what do the American people want asked? What is their question on what's happening today, whether it be Elon Musk or courts or the Supreme Court or whatever's going on? I think, that is what you are in there to do. And that's like the ultimate reminder.
When you were in there, that press spray that you were discussing, the one with Bukele.
Yeah.
I have to say that was one of the White House press get-togethers that might have been the most dispiriting one that I've seen, even more so than, yelling at Zelensky to thank them while sitting in the Oval Office.
I was there for that too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that as well, because you've been there for some real, normally these things are very pro forma. Mm-hmm. The one thing I'll say about the Trump is things happen. Shit goes down when you're in there. The Bukele one, they were being so glib and almost playful about a gentleman who may or may not have been whatever, it didn't go through the right process, who is in what everybody agrees with is one of the most disturbing prisons on the face of the earth. And they were being
God, I'm dying.
coy.
No, I'm sorry. Is she not? Is my gaydar off?
and glib. And I found that incredibly disturbing. And I wonder if while you're sitting in there, you felt that.
Well, what was remarkable was typically the president is the only one who takes questions in a moment like that. He and whoever the other world leader is will be the ones who you direct your questions to. Every other now and then he'll ask other officials to speak, but he doesn't often turn to people and ask them.
Maybe I'm misogynistic. Maybe I think that only strong women that are attracted to other women can be strong women.
Them to answer the question. And I was the first person to ask about what the Supreme Court ruling was, and the president turned to Pam Bondi. And then he kind of had everyone go turn by turn. And you can't always tell on camera, but it is very close quarters inside the Oval Office. So Stephen Miller is probably, a foot from me.
Did it just get colder in here?
Pam Bondi.
The hair on the back of what was that? Don't say that name.
I'll go back to talking about the sprays.
Right.
Pam Bondi is in front of me, and they all kind of took turns answering the question to me, but they all kept deferring to President Bukele and saying, well, it's only up to him. It's only up to him. But he is sitting there saying nothing, which, I'm kind of like assessing the scene. You want to hear what the president's going to say about this, because obviously it could end up in a court filing. And then finally, I asked President Trump, can President Bukele answer that question? You all keep deferring to him. And so, and they also were misinterpreting, or it wasn't totally clear if they had explained to the president about what the Supreme Court ruling was in terms of Trump kept saying that they won and that it was a 9-0 decision in their favor. But if you actually read it, it was much more of a gray area, more nuanced than that in terms of the determination.
Do you think that is the idea they hadn't explained that to him, or the strategy is we're just going to say we won? His strategy is generally when he loses, he just finds a way to say that was the victory.
Or maybe both. And,
a little bit of both.
Sometimes his attorneys will go to him and say, this is the view of this, or this is how we're going to sell it. So it wasn't totally clear to me in that moment as that was all kind of coming out and they were.
Oh.
They were saying that they had won. But it was a remarkable moment to be in there. And then also to see President Bukele's response, which was he was saying, well, I can't smuggle a terrorist into the United States.
Right.
Obviously, that's not what I was asking, but that's how he answered it.
But that's why it felt like they were putting on a play, and the self-satisfaction that they had about this little play was what I found so dispiriting. And I don't know if that's like when you're in that room. So let's say it ends, right? Do you then have an interaction with Pam Bondi off camera, or Stephen Miller off camera, or any of them where they go, what are you going to do? I guess it's up to Bukele, and they all giggle because they know we're paying the guy $6 million or whatever it is that we're paying him. Did they acknowledge to you the play they're putting on or their self-satisfaction?
Yes and no, because one, you're ushered out. The meeting is continuing. You go in just for what's technically the top of it, but obviously you stay in there much longer typically with Trump because he does take so many questions from reporters,
right.
Which I think is a good thing.
Sure.
But then you leave basically, and then you go through the press offices, you're escorted out back to the press briefing area. And so, but I heard from a lot of officials that day, some who were watching and some who were in the room, who were commenting on one, just how it all went down and how they answered those questions.
What was their perception generally of what they saw?
It's a PR strategy, obviously, with them. Publicly they say this because they're also arguing in court filings that they didn't have to return him, despite what judges here were saying and wanting to do a review process of the communications that had happened. And so you do have some people who will acknowledge that it's not a black and white case, that they are obviously arguing in the courts for a reason, but then also that they believe that they will ultimately win this and that they didn't have to facilitate his return, which obviously they still have not done.
Do you feel like you get better answers from people when it's not for attribution and not for the cameras? That's sort of getting back to my last point, that the play that they're putting on is the play, and then you have to facilitate the real. So you feel like the answers you get off camera are better than on?
I think it depends on who you're speaking with. At the White House officials, yes. I mean, this is a tale as old as time. They're more candid when they speak anonymously about something. But when we do the show at night, we're interviewing people on camera about this, and you're kind of operating with the information in your head about what people are saying on background or off the record. And you kind of use that to your ability to be able to ask better questions because you know what's really going on behind the scenes.
Is it a breach of ethics to be able to say afterwards, I spoke with the people in the White House afterwards, they did not want to be for attribution. Does that limit your access to then say, and they said, yeah, that was all a play they were putting on. They knew it was bullshit. It's self-satisfied. Here's the thing. We're just going to play this out in the courts as long as we can. We are not going to be giving people back. I guess what I'm getting at is the truth. The real information. I've always felt like in the green rooms of news organizations, you get more truthful information than on camera because on camera, people feel the consequences of what they say.
Yeah, but I think people should say on camera what they actually think.
And so completely.
But we think about this when we have guests on the show because we like the people who, maybe our audience disagrees with them or maybe they don't like what they're saying, but I like people who come on and will tell you genuinely what they think. And they're not saying one thing, in the commercial break.
But that courage is in short supply, Caitlin. The courage of people to do that is in very short supply.
But I think when you put people on the spot in the moment in an interview and you're like, do you really think that? Or is that, really the case here? I think that moment can be in and of itself revealing. Because I don't think that you should say, report one thing and have one thing, but actually know other stuff. I think you should report what you know and say that publicly. And, that is why I try to be very direct in my questioning or in our interviews at night. We don't have a lot of fluff because, no one really gets away with an easy interview.
But that's what I like about it. And that's what I think is what makes it successful and gives you that credibility. You don't see it a lot. And even, look, there's all that controversy on your network about Original Sin and Tapper's book. And they talk to people and then, there's a lot of stuff on, well, people in private would say, yeah, Biden's not up for the job or he's not. But that wasn't really getting reported at the time, all those whispers and hums. But very clearly, people were disseminating it. It's I guess they call it an open secret, but it felt like very much an open secret.
You know, I talked to one White House official, a pretty senior, who worked for Biden about this and, you know, how they thought everything was playing out. And this person I thought actually made a good point, which was that a lot of the stuff with President Biden happened in public and on camera. Like the moments that some of his staff was most concerned about were, you know, things he said on TV or how he was walking or shuffling his gait. And then they felt, actually, when they met with him one-on-one, they felt better about how he was doing and whether or not he was up to the job and running. And so actually, you know, this person was saying that a lot of the things that were happening with President Biden were kind of out in the open and in front of people's eyes. And you could see, you know, how he was doing and what was happening. I thought that was illuminating in terms of just what this looks like. But
I wonder if that's rationalization on their part, because all of their strategizing was to prevent people from seeing even those private moments. You know, there was something, I think we did it on the show early on, where Kamala Harris was giving a very, you know, impassioned defense of Biden, which, you know, as your vice president, somebody, he's the most sharp out of anybody. He runs those meetings. He does all this. And our response was like, has anybody filmed that? Because that'd be a great thing to put out there to dispel it, because it was the kind of thing that transparency and sunlight would dispel. If what they're saying is, oh, no, you have completely the wrong idea. This is a much different thing in private. That's a much easier thing to dispel than, no, we're lying to you about this and covering it up. And, you know, they didn't do that. And in the same way, I'll say this with the Republicans and Trump. How many times have you heard reporting in private? They say they're tired of his bullying. They think he lies. They think this plane thing is corrupt, but nobody will speak it.
Yeah. Well, and that's always incredibly illuminating, I think, too. And the one thing I think with any president, Republican, Democrat, whatever, there shouldn't be a bubble around them. Like, I understand that political staff is designed to insulate them or to minimize their mistakes or spin their agenda. But I think no president should have a bubble around them, and they should freely have access to reporters to ask questions and question them.
Do they want that? What does a president want? An honest evaluation from people such as yourself or others about where you think they could do better in terms of truthfulness? Because it feels like that's not their goal in any way.
Well, I think for any politician, that's probably, you know, not exactly their number one.
Right.
But, you know, with President Biden, I always found that if you asked him a question, he would answer it pretty directly. Like, I remember when he had first taken office and it was reported that the Biden DOJ was continuing to basically not use warrants to get reporters' phone records. They were continuing a practice that had happened under Trump. And obviously we know Obama did this as well in his administration. And I asked President Biden about it directly. Would he put a stop to the DOJ policy if, you know, they believed in press freedom and access? And he said yes. And I remember a White House staffer, it was on a Friday afternoon, called me. Biden was like coming out of some like fluff event in the East Room. It wasn't like an Oval Office spray. But I'd caught him and I asked him and he answered it. And a White House official told me they were already driving home for the evening and had to like pull over on the side of the road and field questions from the Justice Department because they had to change the policy and write a new policy because of how he answered the question. And so anyway, my point is I think that you should be able to access the president and, you know,
yes,
it was like
it makes sense. Well,
didn't make me very popular.
What it makes you wonder, and maybe this gets to a larger position. Look, you've been down there now. You're still very young, but you've been down there for a decade, yes? You've really been covering this for a long time.
I've been at CNN for 8 years.
And what I wonder is, it's very hard for me, having observed it for these many years and knowing what little I know about it, having interacted with people who really do work down there and trying to do some things to get some things done down there.
Is JD Vance just like chilling in India? Like he's just been in India while all of this has been going down? He's just chilling in India?
Is that if it were on the up and up, wouldn't it be easier to cover it? If the atmosphere down there wasn't, I'm going to do my best to obfuscate what's really going on, the real information. If these policies were so beneficial or clear or not corrupt, or the corruption didn't exist in meme coins and dinners and planes and all the other shit that's going on right now, it wouldn't be this hard. And I'm not saying that it wasn't that way prior, but if you watch, and I'm sure you have, press interaction between politicians in the 40s and 50s, 60s, it's remarkable for its candor and its clarity. Like the layers of consultants and strategy and polling and all that have created a game of Clue where if you felt like if what they were doing really was on the up and up, they wouldn't need this much obfuscation.
I also think part of that is how politics has changed from being, you know, hyper local to being such a nationalized thing in terms of everything they do is aired on television, broadcast on social media, tweeted about, every little thing. And so I do think that in part changes the behavior. And I think this is something that has happened for decades. I mean, if you've studied the presidencies and you're a student of history, from Nixon on down, just looking, in modern history at how presidents have used the office and how important journalism has been. This bill that just passed the House that is now in the hands of the Senate. We were covering this last night on the show, which is several people who voted for it are now Republicans are coming out and saying, well, if I had known this was in there, I wouldn't have voted yes.
Right.
And yes, it is a long bill. It's 1,100 pages. Right. But these are your job as a lawmaker is to read this stuff and then to vote yes or vote no. You kind of are weighing the pros and cons of the bill. You're not going to like it all. But when you say, well, I didn't read this, and if I had seen that was in there, I wouldn't have voted for it. That's really stunning to me in terms
for those
of
who are listening at home. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe, is that let's use her as the avatar for this. Her constituency complained that there's a provision in there that makes it impossible for states to pass any legislation that regulates AI for 10 years. And she was let known of that online and immediately went, oh my God, if I had known that, I never would have voted for this.
Yeah, and then Elon Musk comes out against it, and then two other Republicans were saying, well, every time we say we're going to reduce spending and reduce the deficit, we never do. But that person voted yes on the bill. That adds to the deficit based on these estimates. Right. And so, I think that's why people feel so disillusioned with politics. Like when you just talk to regular people out in the country, I have just a lot of conversations with people just by the nature of my job, either at campaign events or even just like on flights and going around. And I'm from the South, and I come from a town and an area where a lot of people did vote for Donald Trump, not once, but twice. And
3 times, probably.
But we talk to people who say, don't understand Trump voters or the fervent people who show up at his rallies. And those are different, they want to wait in line and hours and whatnot. But there's also people who voted for him also because they were disillusioned with the choices. They didn't like either candidate, and they didn't feel that either person was really going to do what they wanted. And, I think that is often what you hear from people who don't like what's happening in Washington, which is why congressional approval rating is so low, and that are just completely disillusioned with what's happening. And part of because of the things you're saying right there in terms of the personal enrichment that we're seeing or congressional stock trading that is happening on both sides of the aisle,
right.
That drives people nuts.
And that's the part that I think, he brings, look, anytime you have a chaos agent come in and say, I'm bringing change, but the change he's bringing has very little bearing to the things that.
Okay, with the whole, the senators didn't actually read the bill thing, I don't think senators ever actually read any bills. I don't think that's a fair, oh my God, they need to read the bill. That's their entire job is reading the bill. I wouldn't want my senator to waste all their time reading a fucking 1,000 page long book. I would rather them be doing more productive things in their life. So if they have staffers just skim through it, not skim through it, sorry. If they have staffers read through it, that's fine. Then that's probably 1,000% most definitely what's going on the majority of the time in Congress is that staffers and aides and stuff are the ones helping with everything. But it's just what's it called? So it's not the fact that she didn't that the senators didn't read the book. I think it's more so that oh my God, they didn't. I think her specifically. The paragraph was about AI. This administration is infamous for using M dashes all the time in fucking executive orders and documents and shit, which is very common in AI. I mean, it's just, that's the part that's scary to me. Why did no staffers realize, we wrote this bill using AI because they 1,000% did. We wrote this bill using AI, and out of fucking nowhere, AI added in an amendment that says that we're not allowed to regulate AI for the next 10 years. Where the fuck did that come from? That's what I hope happened.
That they had been critical of. And I think that's where the thing that affects me is it's become such a game and such theater and so blatantly so. And it's not even it's off Broadway, local, we're going to put on the Music Man. And he really is the Music Man. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to get everybody instruments. And, it's the Simpsons episode of the monorail. But they seem impervious to anything that would get in between the bond between them. And this bill, again, I have a problem with this, I have a problem with this. They're all going to fucking vote for it. They all talk about Donald Trump's got a real, tightrope to walk. No, he doesn't. Rand Paul won't vote for it. Maybe they'll get one other guy, or maybe they'll play it out like, oh, they'll look around the Senate and go, who might suffer the consequences of voting yes on the budget bill? Okay, let them vote no. And we'll organize it as a tie, and J.D. Vance can come in and break the tie. They did the same thing in the House. Oh, he's never going to get a pass. It just feels like the whole thing is a game in service of an individual.
I think the Senate confirmations also basically were, they told you what's going to happen. I do think you make a good point there. I think that it's very hard for Republicans to turn down the president's signature legislation. We'll see how this plays out. Maybe it gets delayed.
Or even when you look at Cassidy with RFK Jr. Cassidy's like, as a doctor, I cannot sign off on this. And then an hour later, he's like, well, I mean, I could sign off on it. I just meant.
And we talked to people also with Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon. I was there for his confirmation hearing. And, you know, this is one of those situations to what you're pointing to, what people were saying publicly in those hearings and what they were saying privately and the concerns that they had. You know, there wasn't a lot of tough questioning by the nominees by Republicans. Democrats obviously grilled them. They knew that was coming. They wanted to make sure they could survive that essentially. And obviously, I think this is something that happens on both sides when Republicans grill Democratic nominees. I think anyone who is getting elevated to a job like that, a taxpayer-funded job where you make huge decisions that affect people, should be grilled by both sides of the aisle. And then if they pass that and people feel good about it, then you can vote for them. But that's just not the world we live in, obviously. And I think, you know, when all of Trump's nominees got confirmed, essentially, it was a sign that, like, the Republicans are going to rubber stamp essentially whatever he would like to see happen. And the tariffs have only been further proof of that. I was talking to Pat Toomey, the former senator of Pennsylvania, big fiscal hawk. And I said, do you think that Congress should be doing more on the tariffs? I mean, this is technically their job as delegated by the Constitution.
Right.
And he said yes, that he was surprised that Congress hasn't played more of a role in that. And yeah, so I mean, it's just you're seeing that play out. So I agree with you that I don't think that there's going to be that they're not going to die on the hill of this signature domestic policy bill.
Or really any hill. I don't know that there's a hill that they can, because I think they believe, you know, it's such an interesting thing because what came first? Most of these people, look, J.D. Vance was not the J.D. Vance that we see now. You know, they all were like, this guy's Hitler. And now they're like, he's the greatest. I'm going to put him, every morning I cut out a toast in his visage and I toast him and butter him and eat him. You know.
That was quite the picture you just painted there.
Thank you so much. And I think it is what happens. But, you know, at first they do it because it's politically expedient. But then I think they become it. And I wonder how hard it's going to be to unwind it when they no longer have the power of Trump's mass and gravity, holding that together, because I don't know that there's a consistent principle underlying any of it that I can point to. It seems awfully disjointed.
Yeah, and it is singular to Trump. I mean, he has a special political pull that it's hard to see any other politician who has been able to do what he does. And you can see people in his orbit who try to emulate it, and they often do not get away with it in the way that he does. I mean, people around him will acknowledge this and whatnot. And I think the other part of it is like intellectual consistency, like the TikTok bill. It was a bipartisan bill.
Sure.
All of these Republicans and Democrats passed it. And then now that they want to continue the extension of basically the grace period for it, there's only really one Republican that has been coming out on this. It's Tom Cotton, who has said, you know, this is not what we voted for and not what we all passed as a congressional body that was signed into law by the president.
Right. And it was just one of the owners of TikTok, I guess, became a huge campaign contributor.
Yeah, and it's a huge, I mean, they had one of the most successful lobbying campaigns, which is saying a lot in Washington. And so, yeah, I think you see things like that happen. I think the question as reporters is how do we make sure that that is something we always question people on or that we always bring up. You know, one thing that we try to do, if we have had someone on who was an election denier or didn't vote to certify the results, if they're coming on the show for the first time, it doesn't matter if it's in the news cycle, we'll still bring it up and ask them about it. Because I think that you can't just move on from things and then never, you know, because enough time has passed, you don't ever bring it up again or talk about it.
When I think you're at your best, and I think you're at your best a lot, it's when I see you litigating the boundaries of our shared reality and doing it with, I'm not saying ideologically, I mean sort of dispassionately, but that's when I feel like, do you see your job in some regard as that, a kind of a litigator for what the boundaries of our reality are authentically?
Yeah, I think in the moment of, you know, you can be on a different side politically of an issue or have a different view than Elizabeth Warren does of, you know, Mark Wade Mullen, a Republican senator that we have on. They have two wildly different views. They're allowed to have those views. They're Democrats, they're Republicans. People voted for them. But I think when you start saying things that just aren't true or don't align with you know what's real, that's where instead of just saying, well, that's their opinion, there's things that are not opinions. There are things that can be tested and disputed and are just not true. And I think that you have to, you know, we always try to bring the interviews back to that in terms of it's not an opinion about the election being stolen. The election wasn't stolen. And so you can keep saying that, but we're going to say, well, that's just not true. I mean, that's not a brave stance, I don't think. That's just reality.
Right. But litigating that reality when you say, like, yes, but it's unusual. because unfortunately they swim in that tank of obfuscation that makes doing that very difficult. And I imagine for you, it's a constant challenge. And then when you combine that with, I mean, the Elon Trump marriage made it infinitely more difficult, I think, for people that are trying to do what you're doing, which is you've got the richest man in the world who controls maybe the most powerful media platform in the world, aligning himself as a force amplifier for the most powerful man in the world, the president. And those two things together, I think, were kind of unstoppable. I think they were wildly anti-American and anti-constitutional, but unstoppable. And now, obviously, there's whatever pretend fight they're having. But
You don't think it's real?
no, I think
This reminds me of there was like an electric vehicle summit when Biden was in office that Elon Musk did not get invited to, I think because they were not unionized.
That's what he was pissed off. Yeah, he was pissed off about that.
And you think if he was just invited to that, things could be so different, the political realities. Maybe not. Maybe he still would have come over and wanted to vote for Trump and support him. But I do think of things like that in terms of how the power balance, like when you're looking at the inauguration and all the CEOs that are there sitting in Trump's background is fascinating to me. The Elon Musk thing I think is interesting. I do agree that he's not criticizing Trump directly. Trump has not said anything, based on what I've seen lately. But someone who knows both of them described it to me as kind of mutually assured self-destruction with the two of them.
Right.
And that is why they'd never truly split or have like some huge falling out that people predicted, because Trump is the most powerful man in the world. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. And they both kind of need each other and do like each other, I think, too, from what I've heard from a lot of people.
And mutually benefit. Like it's
Right.
it's an alliance of benefit. And you can see that. I mean, we're going to build a golden dome. And gee, I wonder whose tech company is going to be at the forefront of that. Do you wonder, and this is, and I'm going to have to let you, because I know you got a shit ton to do because you got 8 jobs and you're going to have to do them all in a day. But it brings us to that confluence of, I've not seen these titans of industry and media and all these other things align themselves with such passive fealty. I mean, I'm looking at it. I work for Paramount, CBS Paramount. They're going to pay Donald Trump $20 million, $25 million, $50 million for nothing, for an interview that they edited that Trump says he didn't like. And they'll pay him that, and they'll probably apologize. Mark Zuckerberg had to give him $25 million. Elon had to give him $10 million. Is there a worry that you have with where you are that that's also going to be, because nobody wants that smoke. None of these companies. Look what he's trying to do to Harvard. He will bully and intimidate all the people that he knows he can while showing his real, lack of ability to manipulate Xi of China or Putin of Russia. So he's going to crush the people that allow him to crush them.
I think when you look at that and the dynamic of what's playing out, the best thing I can do every day is just report on it and I think be as clear as possible about what's happening and not try to kind of sugarcoat it or give deference to it. I think it's just say what's happening and observe the reality and make.
It's the weekly show with Jon Stewart is what I'm watching. Okay. So let me put this over here. What I've done over here, how I want to lay this out. This is obviously a work in progress. This is not done today. Okay? This is how the coup unfolds. I might need to make these a little smaller. I might need to rework these. But this is the motive. Okay, so these are motives, not motives necessarily for why people would want to overthrow the government, because everyone wants to overthrow the government, right? Like everyone just wants that power, right? No, just me? Okay, awkward. More so, Peter Thiel, this is his backstory. He kind of has like this like obsession with, not obsession in like an extreme sense, obviously, but he has like an affinity for politics. He wanted to be in the Supreme Court. He was denied. Maybe he got a chip on his shoulder. Has like this weirdly apocalyptic view of the United States. Thinks that the U.S. is obligated to intervene with foreign nations regarding their own local regulations, right? He also is aware that our financial system is closely resembling a social credit. He wants to have a social credit system, something to that effect, that includes all of these different various things. And outside of that, he also is working alongside ICE. Oh, I ruined my extension by extending it. No. How do I squish this again? That? No. Nope, that was not it. I mean, that will squish it, but that's not how I wanted it to be squished. There you go. Is it the line that's fucking it up? It might be the line. Wow, wowzers. There you go. Okay, wow. Took so long. I will get formatting this at one point. Okay. Okay, next we have Elon Musk, his South Afrikaners, because him and Peter Thiel are both from South Africa. His little overthrowing of PayPal. His rejection, maybe a chip on his shoulder. Thiel did support SpaceX, so they're chill. Elon Musk says that Thiel is a sociopath. Thiel calls Elon Musk a fraud, okay? JD Vance, his venture capitalism days. That's when he got into Arya Ventures. Peter Thiel, Scott Dorsey, and Mark Andreessen. He supports breaking up big tech, and now the admin introduced legislation saying that no one can regulate AI for 10 years. New York Magazine wrote a profile outlining his authoritarianism. We get these fun quotes. He gets the VP nomination because a bunch of people call up Donald Trump and say that they want him to. Okay, there's that. And then these are just also other random Thiel people that are in the admin, right? Okay. Okay. All right. Then, now, looking at the 25th Amendment. Ooh. This formatting looks weird. I don't know how I had it before. I think it was smaller. Whatever. 25th Amendment. Section 1 is this is just the order of succession, okay? This is just the order of succession. It goes president, then VP. Okay, boom. Section 2. This part over here. This is just procedure. Procedure and swearing in. Okay. Section 4. I mean section 3. Okay. This is when it gets juicy. Whenever the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives his written declaration that he is unable to discharge powers and duties of his office, and until he transmits them to a written declaration to the country, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President. Okay, that is basically saying if the president thinks he is unable to conduct his duties. Okay, and then section 4, this is the part where we got him. Wait, oh, damn it, how do I? What if I do another little headline over here? Perfect. Section 4 is Section 4 is hang on, let me read it. Whenever the Vice President and a majority of either principal officers of the executive departments, so if the Vice President and a simple majority of either, this is A, 1, the cabinet, 2, the House of the Senate. Then if the VP and a simple majority of either of these things transmit to the President of the Senate and Speaker of the House, The VP shall immediately take over office. Okay, then at this point, then president can submit written declaration basically saying no, he's fine. He shall okay, wait, hang on. Thereafter, when the president transmits to the president pro tempore and the Senate his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers and duties of his office. Okay, hang on. So he's allowed to say that he's allowed to fight back and say no, I'm fine. Okay. Then the vice president and a majority, is that just again it just goes back and forth? Because that's the same thing over here. The vice president and a majority of either the principal or of such transmit to the, okay. So then what? It just goes back again. Can say no, he's fine. Okay. At which point it is again up to the VP and his majority. His majority. Oh, within 4 days. Within 4 days. Okay. Oh. Thereupon, then it goes to Congress. Then it goes to Congress. If the Congress within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is in section, Congress is required to assemble, determine, then it goes to Congress to determine by 2/3 majority in both houses unable to discharge powers and duties of office. The okay, boom. Damn. This is a lot of back and forth. Jesus Christ. Okay, boom. Boom, 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 boom. That's such a good place to leave it. 5 big booms for the night. 3:09 in the morning. Going to sleep. Good night, everyone. All right. Good night, guys. I love you. Hope you all had a fabulous, lovely, and perfect day. I'll see you tomorrow. Probably. I don't know.